TCAS on the airplanes, it's independent of those. So there's 4 backups for these systems. So the safety's always been high. So that was surprising to me. But the reliability point...
Isn't there a hangover effect where you might have people around the country who are saying, I'm going to New York, stay the heck away from Newark? Yeah, and how long does that last?
Well, I hope it doesn't last long. We've already seen that the leisure traffic has come back. We did take a big hit, but the leisure traffic's come back. Business is lagging a little. But really, I mean, I think you just need to get people to try it. Because you look at, it's going to be the most reliable. The fares are the best this year that they're probably ever going to be because we lost traffic. The least crowded airport now because the FAA is done. We've been asking for a decade for the FAA to manage capacity there. When did you join?
Scott, when were you CEO? When did you become CEO?
Right, it started COVID, a little over 5 years ago.
Because you remember, this is what I remember, and that is that Continental was a great airline. I loved Gordon, and you remember United and Continental, and there were some issues initially putting them together, and there's some disgruntled United employees. Would you say, and I'm going to show you a chart, and I should get a couple of upgrades from this, but I'm going to show you a chart of a 3-year XAI versus a 3-year United. Is this just solid management? What do you attribute? Well, there it is, Phil. It's we got United up 63%. The average
against the airline index.
Is that
XAL? That's the airline index.
Yeah, that's what I asked for. Yeah, against the index. I also did Delta too, because you have highlighted some of the issues that Ed has faced over at Delta as well. So you're looking at 16 versus 63%. I guess my question was, is it all in the past? Flight attendants, everybody's happy. Flight attendants across the board. People seem happier.
They are.
There were some issues initially, I thought.
What I say I have the easiest job of anyone at United because I only have one responsibility: create an airline that our employees are proud of. Because if they're proud of it, they want you to feel that way when you fly, and they take care of you. And like really everything I do is focused on an airline that they can be proud of.
Anyone else,
that works.
Anyone else close to that 3-year? So minus 21 versus plus 63. Anyway,
maybe not, but also, you know, like Delta, you talked about Delta's a really good airline. It started ahead of us.
Is it the CEO or it's the employees?
It's the employees. And really, it really.
Have you met this man before?
I guess
have you met this man?
I must have been answering.
I have to ask you because I don't know how long we have you here. A big part of your growth in the future will be the continued improvement of aircraft deliveries from Boeing. And Kelly Wartburg is going to be speaking later today at the Bernstein conference. How comfortable are you with what you're seeing out of them? And
Order filled.
Do you sit there now
Order
and say,
submitted.
These are the aircraft we're planning for in, whether it's the rest of this year, 26, 27. Are you much more comfortable now that they're going to hit those targets?
I think Boeing has turned the corner and is heading in the right direction. I have to be blunt. I think the rest of the supply chain is now getting exposed to engines and biofuels, all kinds of other places. So I don't think that aircraft deliveries are going to get to the levels that we thought they would a few years ago. I think they're going to be constrained for years to come. The good news for us at United is we ordered so many we over-ordered aircraft, believing that the supply chain would be challenged. So we want to take 100 narrow bodies a year. We ordered 140, thinking we wouldn't get the others. We're now only getting 60 to 80.
Order filled.
We thought. But we're growing. The growth that we have at United is, in absolute growth, is more than any airline in history has done. We're doing it year in and year out, despite the supply chain challenges. So we can manage through the supply chain challenges. But I do think Boeing has turned the corner.
Really? But you ordered some Airbus or never? No?
We have some. We're 85% Boeing. The XLR is the Airbus A321, and the XLR, which is a narrow-body airplane that replaces the 757 to fly. So we're going to add several destinations, smaller cities in Europe and North Africa that'll be able to fly that airplane here out of Newark.
Great. Out of Newark.
Cool places for you to go on vacation.
Good. We got those. I need those pods.
They're gonna have low lie flat seats on them.
That's the future, is it not? And it's hub and spoke, and
I saw London and Paris. We need to get it to be able to fly across. If they can get it to have longer range, then it will be
But is it longer? Is it a longer range issue? Well, I thought it's part of it's a regulatory issue about being able to fly over land.
Yeah, but that's why you're not going to be able to fly over land, I don't think, because of the sonic boom. But if you could fly from the East Coast to Europe, where you're over the Atlantic, but particularly if you could fly across the Pacific, so fly to San Francisco, LA across the Pacific, you don't have the sound problem, and those are longer markets. That's a huge opportunity set.
Order filled.
So I think that's the key to
Order
having
submitted.
Boom be successful.
I'm long Blake. I think it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, he's a great guy too.
We tried it before. Yeah, that's stupid sound barrier. Can't we change? Can't we change?
But I thought part of what Blake I thought part of what Blake had figured out was actually how to reduce the boom. Wasn't that the whole point?
You got rid of it. Physics is a bitch.
You can reduce the boom under certain meteorological conditions. This is what happens. You fly at 1.15 Mach. The sound barrier will bounce off.
Order filled.
But it's a lot of fuel. You have high fuel burn there.
Right.
It's not much faster than the speed of sound, so it's probably impractical. The Air Force is working on technology though that essentially cancels out the sonic wave.
Right.
So there's theoretical ties.
What about these other wild planes? You're now seeing these
Jet Zero.
Yeah.
Those I really think are going to be the future. I don't know how far away it is, but that airplane, it's like the B-2 bomber, but those airplanes are more...
It looks like a B-2 bomber, but it's a commercial...
Yeah, those are the blended wing bodies. The whole airplane is a wing. They're more technically efficient. They burn a lot less fuel. There's more space inside. You carry more cargo. You can do a lot of things. I think it may be 20 years from now. I think 20 years from now, someone is going to be flying blended wing bodies. Blended wing bodies are going to be the future, I think.
And will we have room for them at the airport?
We'll have to make
changes. Order filled. Order submitted.
Sounds like fun times at the airport coming in the future.
Not just those goggles where no one goes anywhere.
Oh, where no one goes anywhere?
Yeah.
No, people are going to do that too. That's going to be the other version of travel.
It's not the same. Be there in person. It's not the same.
I'm telling you, I can't see it. I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see. I need to be there.
We're just trying to get Air Force One up and running, the new Qatari plane.
Yes.
That's a separate
order
project.
canceled.
Safely.
Yeah. Fabulous. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Really
Thanks,
great.
Phil.
Hey, thank you, Joe.
Love your reports, Phil.
I appreciate it.
Listen,
you know what? I'm going to flag you. Next time I have a report, I'm going to say, Joe, I'm on the air in an hour.
No, you would never preferentially highlight you. I do stuff like that. You don't. You're like Mr. Airline Objectivity.
Yeah, I have to.
Okay, we're getting the hook, folks. Thank you. Quick programming, you don't want to miss the CEO of JetBlue, who's going to be on a little bit later. Closing bell overtime today. That's at 4 p.m. He'll talk about the collaboration with United as well. You don't want to miss it. Squawk Box, come right back.
Even a life that's rich with meaning can take an unexpected turn. And when life brings you change, we have over 100 years of navigating market ups and downs to help guide you with confidence.
Meet the Ninja Flex Flame. With precision temperature control, wood fire smoke, and high-powered cyclonic air for high heat grilling, low and slow smoking, crispier roasting, artisan pizzas in 5 minutes, and flat top griddling, all under one hood.
Introducing AG1 Next Gen. The daily health drink backed by 4 rigorously designed clinical trials. Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by over 10 times and to close common nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
My hair has gotten so much thicker ever since taking this.
I used to have a probiotic, a green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum.
You gotta take it.
First thing I noticed was the energy and recovery that it had after workout. You want to try it? Try arma.com.
Walt Disney Studios chose T-Mobile for Business to help bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. T-Mobile's advanced 5G solutions connected remote production hubs, powering real-time collaboration.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Oh, these Katie's are fire.
Katie, you work here?
Whatever, kid.
Take notes. Every shoe for every athlete, only at Dick's.
Order filled.
Hey, America, it's our 249th birthday, so let's party. But shouldn't we wait another year for the big 250? Like George and the boys should have waited another year for the disco on the Delaware? Come on. We the people don't wait to keep it juicy. Never have. Heck, we partied in Boston with just tea. Point is, juicy don't wait for round numbers. So happy Big 249, America, from Johnsonville. Let's keep it juicy.
Jump to the jam, boogie woogie jam.
The Trump administration is contract with Moderna for the development of a bird flu vaccine for humans. Our Angelica Peebles joins us now with more, and you could conjecture a lot of things about this between RFK Jr. and vaccines and mRNA. What's behind all this, Angela?
Yeah, good morning, Joe. So this is just the latest in a string of events that we've seen related to COVID vaccines over the last week. And what's happening here is that the Trump administration is canceling a more than $700 million contract with Moderna to develop a bird flu vaccine and other pre-pandemic influenza viruses. And so what's really notable about this is that obviously we've seen this, we've seen bird flu tearing through birds and also dairy cows, and the risk to humans. And so what we saw in the Biden administration is that they really ramped up this work, and they were helping to fund, they were going to fund a phase 3 trial to see if we could use mRNA for a bird flu vaccine if it indeed spills over to humans. And now the cancellation of this vaccine is quite a surprise, maybe not a surprise now because we had been hearing rumblings about this for the past few months, but we just saw this this contract ramp up right before the last administration left. And now you have the Trump administration saying that they felt like after a rigorous review, we concluded that the continued investment in Moderna's H5N1 mRNA vaccine was not scientifically or ethically justifiable. And they're saying that it's not just about efficacy, it's about safety. And so it's interesting to hear them really casting doubt on just the safety and the efficacy of mRNA vaccines as a whole.
I know, and that has been swirling around since COVID, and people talk about
Order
myocarditis.
Order canceled.
I don't know, some anecdotal evidence about some of the vaccines we used for COVID. They sometimes don't point out that you can get terrible myocarditis from COVID itself, and it's a much lower incidence, obviously, with the vaccines. But there's a whole, you've seen it sort of, sort of increasing, the skepticism, and then you have, the RFK Jr. in a position has expressed some skepticism about vaccines in the past. Angelica, the J&J was not an mRNA vaccine, I don't think, for COVID. I mean, what will we use for bird flu if we don't use? It's very quick, and it's like software. You can update the software with messenger RNA. It's a pretty powerful platform to develop a vaccine. What would we use if it did jump? What would we use if it did jump to bird flu if we don't use an mRNA virus? Would you use some adeno virus or something?
Order submitted.
So we do have 3 licensed vaccines that do use older technology grown in eggs and also cell culture. But like you said, Joe, these take much longer to produce. And that's been really the key with mRNA. And that's why we've seen so much excitement, whether it's about seasonal flu and also pandemic flu, because you can just quickly update what you need. It only takes like days to produce this. I've been to one of Pfizer's manufacturing facilities up in Massachusetts, and it's just a very small operation compared to the output that you can get with mRNA versus what you see with some of the egg-based vaccines, for example, where you need, thousands, millions of eggs to actually produce the vaccines. And so I think that's why, this is a little bit surprising because the hopes were so high. And also, again, the mRNA vaccines were originally developed under the first Trump administration. And that was seen as such a win, of course, during the pandemic. And now you have this new administration coming in and saying, whoa, we need to, hold the phone. Yeah. This is under-tested, and we're not going to continue what the Biden administration did. And so it's a really interesting, turn of events here. And also, I do want to note that tomorrow, we're actually expecting an FDA decision for Moderna's next-generation COVID vaccine. That PDUFA date is tomorrow, and it's hard to see, what happens with that.
Yeah. It's troubling, I got to admit, because it's all rolled up in the lab origin and, whether we should have closed everything down and whether kids should have not been. It's all rolled up into that. There's an entire it's not, I'm not going to call it a conspiracy, but there's an entire social media group of people that just anything that has to do with the COVID vaccine, they're against. And it could be cutting off our nose to spite our face if we're not ready for bird flu because of this perception that messenger RNAs aren't safe. And we need more testing. I mean, I have seen some things that maybe the mRNA stays around longer. The half-life was supposed to be seconds, I think, wasn't it, or something originally, Angelica? And then have they found it?
Yeah, it's
months
not long.
later. What's that?
Yeah, I don't know exactly off the top of my head what the half-life is, but it's not supposed to be something, that lingers forever.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, politics informs everything these days. Angelica, thank you. It'd be bad if we weren't ready, Sorkin.
We got to get ready.
For a bird flu. Well, hopefully not. When was the last pandemic? 1917, before that one. It's 8 a.m. On the East Coast, and you're watching Squawk Box on CNBC. I'm Joe Kernan, along with Andrew Ross Sorkin. Becky is off today. Among today's top stories, a federal court striking down the president's reciprocal tariffs, ruling he didn't have the authority to impose them. The White House appealing almost immediately. Trade-sensitive stocks moving higher this morning, helping the futures market. Salesforce beat estimates, gave strong guidance. The company says sales grew more than 7% year over year. Here's CEO Mark Benioff on Mad Money last night.
It just was an incredible quarter, and you're right, we are raising guidance by $400 million. That means we're going to do over $41 billion this year in revenue, Jim. Pretty awesome for Salesforce. We're so proud of our team.
And Shell is buying Total Energy stake in an oil field off the coast of Nigeria for $510 million as it looks to increase its presence in the country's deepwater Bonga field. In case you were wondering, the deal increases Shell's business there to 67.5% from 55%. Good old Bonga.
Order filled.
You ever said that before?
I haven't.
I haven't either.
Take a look at futures right now. We were higher, by the way. Let's just be honest. We were about 400 points higher on the Dow when we began this broadcast. We're about up 133 points.
Start being honest?
At some point, you got to break down and be
Order
honest with the audience.
It's 8 o'clock.
The Nasdaq up about 288 points, 290 points. The S&P 500 up about 50 points. This on the back, we think of maybe this court case and the tariffs, but we'll see. Meantime, I want to get over to Contessa Brewer with a look at this morning's pre-market movers. Lots of stocks moving around, Contessa.
Yeah. Hi, Andrew. Good morning to you. And we're keeping an eye on a group of retailers who reported results this morning, starting off with Best Buy off its earlier morning lows because it reported a mixed first quarter earnings coming in better than expected. Revenue slightly lower, just off. Comparable store sales had a larger than expected loss, and Best Buy updated its full year guidance to incorporate tariff costs, lowered its top and bottom line guidance for the year. And as you can see right now, those shares are off 2.5% in the pre-market. Foot Locker, meantime, reported first quarter earnings and comp store sales in line with preliminary results. The sneaker giant reported on May 15th. That's the date that Dick's agreed to buy out Foot Locker for $2.4 billion or $24 a share. Foot Locker will not hold an earnings conference call, nor is it providing guidance because of the pending acquisition. But right now, those shares are up by 0.2%. And Kohl's is a big earnings winner here. We're seeing that move up higher by 6% this morning after reporting a lower than expected loss and beating revenue expectations in the first quarter. The department chain affirmed its full year guidance. Now, that stock is still down about 40% year to date, which it's just been turbulent. Former CEO Ashley Buchanan was fired in late April because of an undisclosed personal relationship with a vendor. The company also previously plunged after cutting guidance in March. So we'll keep an eye on what those shares do throughout the day. Andrew, I'll send it back to you.
Okay, Contessa Brewer, thank you.
Sure.
Great to see you. We're going to talk NVIDIA shares in just a little bit after this because those shares are rising. You're looking at 1 year chart there, up about 23%. We're at about $141 right now.
Order filled.
Order
submitted.
This after the company reported a 73% jump in data center sales. We've got a reaction from an analyst straight ahead on what's going on and the implications with China as well. We're coming right back.
Order filled.
Order filled.
In the age of AI, submitted.
Smarter threats need even smarter protection. CrowdStrike Charlotte AI is delivering the future of
Order
cybersecurity
canceled.
for what's now
Order filled.
and what's next.
Order filled.
Built on the intelligence of every breach we stop and refined by human expertise, Charlotte AI gets smarter so your business stays safer. So you can build for tomorrow with confidence and efficiency and protect what matters most. That's why the businesses you trust CrowdStrike. CrowdStrike.
Order
We stop
submitted.
breaches.
How do you find the perfect
Order
Father's
filled.
Day gift? Simple. Just type WT.com. WeatherTech has hundreds of premium products that will keep Dad's vehicle looking its best. Like laser measured floor liners, cargo
Order
liner,
submitted.
and seat protector for extra interior protection. Sunshade blocks harmful UV rays. The cup phone perfectly secures his phone while driving. Order these American-made products or a gift card at WT.com. Happy Father's Day.
Is a Bitcoin ETF the same as owning Bitcoin directly? While Bitcoin ETFs might offer a familiar face, they lack the true ownership and flexibility of directly investing in Bitcoin. With iTrust Capital, you can buy and sell real Bitcoin 24/7 with the tax advantages of an IRA. Real Bitcoin means no middleman, no restricted stock market hours. Choose the path of direct Bitcoin investment with iTrust Capital, because access equals opportunity. Invest in Bitcoin at itrustcapital.com today.
Ninja Frost Vault is drinking food's favorite cooler. The cold, dry zone that keeps food separate, dry, and fridge temp for days. No more soggy sandwiches. Where heavy-duty strength means premium ice retention. With Ninja Frost Vault.
If your clients are only
Order
investing in
filled.
public markets, they're missing
Order
out on
submitted.
the 90% of companies that are privately owned. Maybe it's time for a
Order
bigger pie.
canceled.
Start building wealth for your clients with private market investments.
I started the club for you. The Investing Club is about allowing you to be in control of your own money. You want to be a better investor? Join the club.
Join the club and save at cnbc.com/join-gym. Terms and restrictions apply.
Video shares higher following quarterly results that beat expectations. Join us right now is
Order
Jonathan.
filled.
He is KeyBank Capital Markets Equity Research Analyst. Good morning to you. John, the stock up about 5% on the back of
Order
this news.
filled.
73%
Order
up in
submitted.
terms of revenue. I mean, it's just
Order
the sales
filled.
numbers continue to,
Order submitted.
outperform in many ways. But where does this go from here? What do you think the value of this company really is at this point?
Yeah, we think these guys have a $190 price target, based on kind of roughly, 32 times our kind of $6 numbers and out year numbers. Obviously they're the clear leader in this space. Stock is trading at relative value at kind of 22 times kind of next year's numbers. But yeah, we think there's a meaningful upside from here going forward.
In terms of headwinds, do you see any? And what do you think of what Jensen said yesterday about the China situation?
Yeah, I think China is still kind of an unknown out there. Obviously these earnings calls are historically typically targeted towards investors and analysts. But you saw last night what I felt was kind of Jensen appealing to the current administration, right? So the concern is that there's a ban in place on a chip that they had developed that was compliant with the prior administration's requirements and then was recently banned. They acknowledged last night that they are evaluating and working on another chip. And if they are not able to successfully bring it to market and get clearance to sell
Order
this chip
submitted.
to China, there is potentially
Order
a
filled.
$50 billion market opportunity that they are not going to participate in.
What is reflected to that degree in the stock right now?
Order
I think in the
submitted.
near term right now, I think the stock is looking through a lot of these headwinds. Obviously, the stock's up pre-market. The bar had been lowered going into the print, I think what you're seeing right here is that there were a lot of concerns
Order
that
canceled.
the China headwind would be a bigger headwind to their guidance. And obviously they came through in flying colors because of all the sovereign, non-AI, and kind of major hyperscaler demand in North America and the US remains extremely robust.
John, in terms of competitors, is there another stock in this space that you would like more than NVIDIA?
I don't know if we're at a point where we have to kind of look at kind of
Order
zero
filled.
sum and things like that. But our two favorite names in the AI semiconductor space right now are going to be NVIDIA and Broadcom. And they serve kind of two different AI markets right now. And, NVIDIA kind of has the leadership position in terms of merchant silicon.
Order submitted.
Broadcom is servicing kind of the custom AI ASIC space, right? Their largest customer right now is Google with the TPU franchise. They've got a handful of other hyperscaler customers that are developing AI ASICs, and they're clearly the leader in that space. So these two horses are probably the two favorite stocks of ours right now in AI semiconductors.
John, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me.
It's still to come. CEOs and market watchers sounding the alarm on the reconciliation bill making its way through Congress. We're going to talk about the deficit, whether or not D.C. has a spending problem. Really? You don't know that? In just a few minutes. Squawk Box will be right back.
At PGIM, finding opportunity in fixed income today helps secure tomorrow. Our time-tested fixed income suite, backed by over 145 years of risk experience, helps investors meet their goals. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
When I started Walton Goggins Goggle Glasses, I needed a website. And GoDaddy Aero uses AI to make a beautiful website so fast it'll blow my customers' noggins while they're shopping for Goggins for their noggins.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Hey, Dad, I have a question for you.
Sure.
When did Granddad first start investing?
Granddad had an account with Schwab before there were branches in the area. He really started with nothing. He worked hard, and after he passed away, the torch has been passed to me, and my advisor, Jennifer, she was with me with the journey, helping with the estate distribution. The two grandchildren, planning for their college educations. Someday it'll be their turn.
Whatever I put on, whatever I wear, I just want to be confident in it. It's important to be authentically yourself and just be who you want to be. People are going to like you, people are going to hate you regardless of what you do. So don't be fake, just be real.
Hey, America, it's our 249th birthday, so let's party. But shouldn't we wait another year for the big 250? Like George and the boys should have waited another year for the disco on the Delaware? Come on. We the people don't wait to keep it juicy. Never have. Heck, we partied in Boston with just tea. Point is, juicy don't wait for round numbers. So happy big 249, America, from Johnsonville. Let's keep it juicy.
Jump to the jam, boogie woogie jam slam.
We're here for big families. Get big orders delivered with bulk pricing from your favorite club stores in as fast as 2 hours through Instacart.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. Citigroup, loving AppLovin. The analyst naming at Citigroup, naming the software publisher a top pick, replacing Take-Two. Price target, $600. So another 50%. I did that really fast, Sorkin.
Wow.
I did that really fast.
Human calculator.
Really, I know. The human brain, there's nothing close. I don't care what you do with your little chat GPT. It's still not this. It's Still not this. They didn't take a shot at me. They're just leaving that on. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, the House Budget Reconciliation Package will add roughly $3 trillion to the debt, including interest over the next 10 years. And bank CEOs, among others, talking about the economic impact and worries about the deficit. Maya McGinnis is the president of the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. She's not happy, and rightly so, probably, Maya. If I were to tell you how difficult it is to make a dent on discretionary spending, you'd say, yes, I understand that. And if I were to tell you that it's a very narrow margin in the House, and you've got Republicans that also are very unhappy with this, would you at least acknowledge that 1.6 trillion is maybe of cuts is maybe the best that could be expected in this environment?
I sure hope not. First, I would tell you that this isn't actually the discretionary cuts that they're looking at here. That's done differently under the caps. But this is where they're taking the real part of the budget, the mandatory or structural reforms we want to see. It's where the biggest growth in the budget is. And overall, the changes we're seeing are tiny. And let me put it in context to say that, no, I think we should be able to do more in spending cuts. But over the same time period, the federal government is going to spend $86 trillion. Okay, so I don't think 1.7 trillion out of that is very large. And then we pivot to the Senate, where it's moving next. Their aspiration, what they've put out in their roadmap for what they are going to try to save, is $4 billion. That's their standard out of 86 trillion. So no, I don't think this is serious about reducing spending at all. And one thing we know is part of the purpose here is for growing the economy. You do that by pro-growth, focusing on pro-growth tax reform, and also by as little debt as possible. And so the $3 trillion that the House would borrow and the more the Senate might borrow is anti-growth. That's one of the big concerns.
Right. I mean, in a reconciliation bill, you can't do discretionary. I mean, that's what I meant. It's not possible.
Well, taking that off the table, you're totally right.
Yeah. So taking that off, and that needs to be addressed at some point. But how much could actually be done here, given not one Democrat is going to vote for this at this point? In their view, Maya, the spending cuts that we're seeing right now, grandma's going off the cliff again in her wheelchair from the slightest thing you do to Medicaid.
Absolutely. So first, you're right. Discretionary can't be part of this, nor can Social Security. So those are big chunks of the budget, which we should be committing to reform as well. You can't focus on cutting taxes and ignore the fact that we should be doing all these spending parts. Number two, that's right. This is not a bipartisan effort. Unfortunately, reconciliation rarely is. Something that used to be used to reduce the deficit, now it's used to increase the deficit, and both parties use it in a way that is not at all conducive to bipartisan efforts, which is what we're going to need. You're not going to make any of these difficult choices if we don't have cover of bipartisan work to do it. I'm afraid a huge tax bill will make it more difficult to get Democrats engaged afterwards. I would like to see us focus on a big debt deal. But you are right. Every article I read where there's the description of all the benefit changes as slashing is so unfair, kind of, and stacked against the fact that a lot of these policies that are structural are going to have to happen, and then much more. So there's a huge bias against doing anything hard, which is what fixing the fiscal situation is. But when you've got interest as the fastest growing part of the federal budget, when you have a Senate that may well make a $3 trillion addition to the budget worse, not better, you have to start looking at every effort you can. And if it's going to be a purely partisan bill, listen, Republicans have wanted to cut spending for a long time. Now is their opportunity. So I really hope we can do better than 1.7 trillion out of a very large budget over the same time period.
So Maya, the Treasury Secretary, we're at 7% deficit to GDP. He wants to get to 3, and you applaud that. This will not do it.
Order
is
filled.
There any way that you're underestimating the possible growth?
Order filled.
Aspects
Order submitted.
Where it actually does come in much. That's what most Republicans will come back at you with, that we're going to have much.
Order
the
filled.
CBO doesn't calculate this correctly, and the growth could be much more robust than people think. Is there any way you're underestimating that?
Yeah, they will indeed come back at us with that. And we're not actually estimating it as much as looking at the ranges of estimates out there. I would say there is no credible way that this bill is going to generate the kind of growth that the advocates are arguing it would. So listen, outside experts, there's a range of what the growth effects of this bill would be. They range from about negative 50 billion to about 710 billion. That negative number comes because the negative effect of all the borrowing can outweigh the positive effect of the economic growth, particularly in a bill like this, where a lot of those tax cuts aren't pro-growth. They're actually the opposite. They're cutting up the tax base. We should be broadening the base and lowering rates. But if you've got a range of negative 50 to 710 billion from growth, and then the House budget resolution is assuming 2.6 trillion in growth, many multiples, no, I don't think that that is what we should be banking on. We certainly shouldn't assume it ahead of time. Remember, there are things outside of government that are going to be negative on growth, looking at the uncertainty from tariffs and possibly from immigration. So we're not talking about a situation where you should spend all that growth, which nobody except the advocates of the bill are arguing is a credible number, ahead of time. I know that's what people who want to make this seem easy say. Don't worry, we're going to grow our way out of the situation. Usually tax cuts generate enough to offset about 20% of the cost of the bill. This is less pro-growth than the previous 2017 version because that had the corporate rate cut, which was where a lot of the growth really came from.
How would we broaden, and Andrew once again, but how would we broaden the tax? What is your answer on, is it on the revenue side or is it purely on the spending side?
I would do as much as possible. Listen, I would love to see a reconciliation bill that would reduce the deficit. We have people who have said out there, and I completely agree, we should not be passing any legislation that makes this worse. Over the next 10 years, we are set, if we do nothing, to borrow 22 trillion more. We will have a debt as a share of GDP that's the record of what it's ever been. So I would start with, don't pass legislation that adds to the debt at all. I would increase the offsets as much as possible. If we're not going to do Medicare, which we should, there's still a lot more we could do in Medicaid. And yes, there will be accusations of slashing benefits, but there are a lot of gaming and gimmicks and taking advantage of the system goes on where we could focus the efforts. I also would get rid of all of the tax cuts that aren't really the fundamental pro-growth cuts and focus on the extension of the existing ones. And there's more offsets we can do in other areas. Yeah, Andrew.
You know, Ray Dalio talks about what he calls the 3% solution, which is basically you have to get interest rates in this country down to 3%. And that the only way to do that effectively is using these sort of three levers, if you will. One is cutting costs, but the other, ultimately, he would say, is raising taxes. And the last one, which is related to the first two, is getting the interest rates down. That actually, interest rates are the most important piece of this, but of course are a function of the first two. Nobody is willing to touch the idea of raising taxes at all. And clearly, nobody's really willing to touch the idea of cutting spending. And so if you can't even touch the first two, you never get to the third. And my question is, what's it actually going to take? I mean, he talks about a crisis is what it's going to take. But how do we force the issue earlier?
Yeah, first I would like to say I absolutely endorse what both Ray and Secretary Bessent are saying, which is let's get this deficit to 3% of GDP. It's the right goal. It would require savings of about $750 billion over the next 10 years. So that is I'm sorry, $7.5 trillion over the next 10 years, clearly moving in the wrong direction. This is something that would bring those deficits up to 7%, not down. Number two, absolutely what you're saying is true. We have to reduce spending, we have to increase taxes, and we have to do it in a way that promotes as much growth as possible, but has reasonable estimates or assumptions about growth, not these kind of huge wishful thinking ones. We don't have the political dynamic to do this. We have two parties who are in a cage match against each other, fighting each other by trying to give away more than the other party. And the levels of polarization we have in this country are leaving us making bad choices. The fiscal choices that we are making are weakening our economy, weakening our ability to respond to emergencies, weakening our national security. We had a conference just yesterday with a lot of folks from different areas about what do you do if there is some kind of downturn or emergency, because we're so indebted. Any response that we have right now would be much more difficult than it otherwise would be. So I'm worried about the political environment.
They're playing us out. If we went back to pre-pandemic spending, what would that take? And we're not going to do that. I mean, would that get us close? Oh, we got 15 hard. We got to go, Maya. We'll have you back.
Okay.
You know, I still think it's more spending than we've just blown out spending since the pandemic. Andrew.
Still to come, despite falling 2% yesterday, Bitcoin is now up 13% in the past month. We'll talk about crypto's latest move with LightSpark's David Marcus.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
Introducing AG1 Next Gen. The daily health drink backed by 4 rigorously designed clinical trials. Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by over 10 times and to close common nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
The FBI calls it house stealing, the latest scam where a cyber thief transfers the title of your home out of your name and steals your hard-earned equity.
It's roughly 60 to 90 days for that person to even figure out that they're the victim of this crime. You start getting foreclosure notices and you realize you've got 4 mortgages on your house that you didn't even know existed.
Unfortunately, it's on you
Order
to protect
canceled.
yourself. You might already be a victim. Check your title status now at HomeTitleLock.com.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
The premiums were getting unreasonable.
We just didn't need the coverage anymore. Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
The average dog only lives to be 10. That's 10 birthdays, 10 first summer swims, 10 annual camping trips. At the Farmer's Dog, we don't think that's long enough. That's why our freshly made food comes pre-portioned, just for your dog. Because a dog at a healthy weight can live a longer, happier life.
Initial jobless claims and the second read on first quarter GDP coming out. Rick Santelli is standing by at the CME in Chicago, and they've got about a second to analyze this, Rick.
Yes. Yeah, you're right on time, Joe, 8:30 Eastern. And, of course, initial and continuing claims have been awfully well behaved. But let's start out with our second look on first quarter GDP. Expecting down 0.3, we gained a tenth, down 0.2%. And if we look at the consumption numbers, well, they backed up a bit from 1.8 to down to 1.2. So this is definitely a bit of a miss on the consumption side. And 1.2, how does that stack up? That would be the lightest consumption since the second quarter of 23. Second quarter of 23. Pricing index, 3.7%, exactly as expected. Same as the rearview mirror, no change there. But just to put a face on it, that would be equal to the last quarter of 22 to find a higher price structure. You're going to the third quarter of 22. And finally, let's go to the core side of the PCE price index, quarter over quarter, maybe especially important in front of tomorrow's PCE data, 3.4. So we're a tenth cooler than both the rearview mirror and the windshield. How does that stack up? 3.4 would be the warmest since the first quarter of 24. Initial jobless claims, they got a little warmer, Joe. We're expecting a number of 230,000. This comes in at 240,000. That's up 14,000 from a very slightly revised 226,000. But 240,000 would be the highest since the last week in April, not that long ago. And, of course, we haven't been over 250,000 since October of last year. Always important to pay attention to. And on continuing claims, we now have our third 1.9 or higher. Yes, once again, 1,919,000. This is a third reading over 1.9 million since the second week of April of this year, and it would be the warmest levels that we've had basically since 21. Interest rates have moved down a bit. the entire curve is down roughly a basis point or so, but still hovering not far below 4.5%. And I suspect that we're going to continue to be on the warm side on long-dated interest rates. And finally, the last of $183 billion in coupon supply comes today at 1 Eastern, Joe, in the form of $44 billion 7-year notes. Back to you.
We're all below again. On the 30-year, we were above 5. Now we're below 5. On the 10-year, we were above 4.5. Now we're below. And on the 2-year, we went back below.
So what do you think that is?
It's just a couple of basis points. What I'm interested in, and we're going to talk about it next, Rick, we're up only 100 points now on the Dow. It's everything that the panicans wanted on tariff. They got everything they wanted. They're not going in. Why isn't the market up 10,000 points that there aren't going to be tariffs? Is it because now we don't have any negotiation?
Probably because the market's pretty darn smart, and the market has been moving up because no matter how the tariff situation ends up panning out, the market's made a very simple, clear, but maybe nobody wants to talk about decision, and that is all the tariff talk is overblown in terms of its negative effects. No matter how it turns out ultimately, that's what I hear the market saying. Is the market going to be right? Listen, all I know is that for my part in this, I think the market is right, and I also think I want to see more deficit reduction in that bill, Joe. I really enjoyed your last couple of segments.
Oh, good. All right, well, we're going to talk to the head of the Thundering Herd coming up. So he may know something about what's going on with the market. Up next, we're going to talk about that with Merrill Lynch co-head of Merrill Lynch Wealth Management and President Eric Schintz. And then we also have David Marcus. Andrew's going to talk to him about...
You are too.
I might a little bit. You know more. Well,
no, I thought you're the Bitcoin maximalist.
At Morgan Stanley, old school hard work meets bold new thinking. To help you see untapped possibilities and relentlessly work with you to make them real.
I'm Darren, and this is my TimberTech story. We had wood here before. The maintenance and trying to look after it's just impossible down here. You can't do it. On TimberTech, it's maintenance free. The advanced PVC from the naked eye, it looks as if it's real wood. There simply isn't anything better. We have historically got big hurricanes here, and we have no worries about the decking out here at all because it's so strong. Playing golf for a living, I'm traveling all the time. Knowing that we have TimberTech, that's one less thing we've got to worry about. TimberTech is everything wood should be.
At Zillow, Spencer Raskoff helped change how people buy homes and created billions in value. But his only regret was not letting everyday investors in sooner. Now, Spencer and I are targeting a $1.3 trillion opportunity with Picasso. Backed by leading VCs, we're building the future of second home ownership with over $100 million in adjusted gross profits. Now you can join top investors for just $2.80 per share before our share price changes. Learn more at Picasso.com/invest.
I get my ideas from Mad Money everywhere. I look at everything as a stock. I study it all the time. My viewers are my bosses. You come to my show and you learn how to do stocks.
Mad Money, weeknight 6 Eastern, CNBC.
I love the viewer. It means everything.
Golf, it's always bigger in Texas.
A remarkable round of golf. You are kidding me. Absolutely stunning.
Yeah, this is amazing.
It's awesome.
It's a party out here.
Live is lit. Crushers start the party here in Dallas.
Where do you go to a golf tournament and get an amazing concert? Nowhere but Live Golf.
Get your tickets to Live Golf Dallas.
Aha. Sounds like a mission for me. Oh, empty. Oh, so empty.
No Red Bull, no wings.
Welcome back. Let's bring in the aforementioned Eric Schimpf, president and co-head of Merrill Lynch wealth management. I told you about that's my big regret was ever leaving Merrill, and I think it was 1984. So the Thundering Herd.
We have that in common. Well, first of all, good morning. We have that in common. We're both trainees.
Great company. I should recuse myself probably, but we'll just talk about markets in general. What a bounce back from all the fear we had on April 2nd.
Yeah, first of all, again, Andrew, as well, good
Nice to
morning.
see you.
Great to be here to represent the 25,000 teammates at Merrill Lynch that do great things every single day. Our job is to give advice to Americans, and the volatility that's been in the market has been real. But when that happens, Joe, I mean, it tests, in your gut, hey, am I investing for the right reasons? What's the purpose that I'm investing for? And when you have some volatility, you have to think about it and say, and goals all of a sudden can change, right? Which isn't.
You got to know your client.
Yeah, of course. Know your client, and then that gives you the opportunity to have those conversations, which we do every single day with, again, remind us, what are your goals? What is that time frame? And then put that money to work. In April, it got volatile, and I think the volatility continues because headlines are headlines, but we sort of say, okay, read them, pay attention to them. Let's sort of operate, in fact, on an individual basis with somebody's plan and try and help.
But you would still say Merrill Lynch is bullish on America. Right. That was do you still use that? Is that still?
Yeah.
That was the greatest.
Bullish on America, the Thundering Herd.
Yeah. Mother Merrill.
Mother Merrill. All the things that you remember. Yeah, we do every day. But I also get the great benefit of being part of Bank of America.
What is with AI and everything else? What does the future look like for your 25,000 financial?
I don't think it would surprise anybody that the leader of Merrill Lynch believes human advice is advice is best given by humans around the kitchen table, on the telephone, talking with people. But you also see a desire for clients to do things when they want to do them, right? And so AI kind of combines that and helps us. Can we get more productivity? Can we do a little bit more digital work to allow clients to do some things when they want to do it, but then help our advisors maybe be a little more predictive? So think about someone's career path. This year already, we've delivered several million alerts to our advisors that says, hey, here's some interesting data about a client that we've seen. Maybe they moved, maybe they've been promoted, maybe they bought a home. That helps them then think through, okay, how can I better give advice to that individual?
So that's what we hear, that AI could just help humans do what they do.
Yeah,
better.
I mean, we've created something, we've been on the forefront, we've created something called Ask Merrill, which for our client associates, I mean, the backbone of our business, the people that really service clients every single day, I think we've used it 3 or 4 million times already this year. It's an AI-driven tool that allows them to get a better answer, how to do something quicker, how to fill out a form, what's needed to do something. I mean, we've used it millions of times already.
Do you have an answer for how we deal with this, what's going to be a suffocating amount of debt for the country? I mean, CEOs are getting more nervous. Jamie Dimon, people are getting, I mean, seems like we're heading towards something eventually that there'll be a reckoning with.
I don't necessarily have an answer, but again, I think what I said earlier, rings true for the work that we do. Headlines are there, you read things, you hear things, you have to sort of then say, okay, read through the headlines, what's really going on based in fact, what's going on with earnings power, what's going on in the economy that helps people make decisions. And through April, the volatility that we saw, the majority of our clients put more money to work. Right, and we took advantage of it. Things like tax loss harvesting and some of those things aren't just year-end activities, right? They're things that investors can do throughout the year. And if you have
order submitted,
a plan, it's sort of easy to revert to it and make decisions.
We're going to have David Marcus on in a little bit. We'll talk crypto with him, Bitcoin. But that's the next big thing. So is the Thundering Herd calling its clients saying crypto is the thing and
order
you should be
submitted.
In it? We made crypto available through ETFs last summer, I think, when it became available as an accommodation to our clients. It's not something that we write research on yet, or not something that we do on a solicited basis, but we did take advantage of the change and make it available.
Do you think it's going to be that, though? Because part of the argument for Bitcoin bulls is that once you're writing research, once you're out there actually making recommendations around it in a meaningful way, not just sort of doing it as a service to
as an accommodation.
You use the word accommodation as an accommodation, but rather as an advocate. Not that you'd be an advocate, but you advocate for different stocks and things like that. That then the whole dynamic changes, and therefore it takes off in a whole new way. Do you believe that?
I think you're starting to see it already. You know, solution providers, you know, companies that create ETFs and things like that, starting to put allocations of crypto in models. Really at all
Order canceled.
risk tolerances, you're starting to see that. And I think as those come to market and start to find their way into retail wealth management, you know, I think it does head that way.
Would you still try to bring over a big, like poach FAs from other places that have a lot of money under management? Is that still going on? That you give them, low, you know, a higher commission?
I have 100%
higher payout?
I have 100% confidence that the Merrill platform is the greatest.
Order
wealth
submitted.
management
Is it still happening? Guys still moving around?
Sure, and I want the best advisors in over 500 cities that there's a Merrill office to
So
work
you're
with
still
me.
talking, if someone comes in from a competing firm and says, I want to bring my book over here,
Would you like to
we
come
can
back,
talk.
Joe?
It might be too late. You know, I'm not sure. I have dreams that I still have to make my numbers every month, and they're not pleasant.
I think it's a very different business than the way you and I were trained.
You don't have to eat what you kill quite as much anymore.
The demand for personal financial advice, I think, is at an all-time high, and I want the best advisors to work with.
Well, I still am scarred. I'm scarred from purely commissions. I am. Eric, thank you. It's not your fault, but thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, both. Andrew, thank you.
Thank you. Meantime, this may be the water cooler story of the morning. Maybe it's people don't have water coolers anymore. They have like Slack channels, right? So this is like we're going to enter the chat. I don't know what you would say. OpenAI leading a group of tech giants that won a deal to build one of the world's largest AI data centers in Abu Dhabi. But behind the scenes, reports now saying that Elon Musk worked to try to derail that deal if it didn't include his own AI startup, with implications that, given his proximity to the president, that would have an effect on all of this. Kate Rooney joins us this morning to talk about this story that is making a lot of headlines and a lot of chatter, as we just said, in the group chats or maybe around the water cooler, if the water coolers are still a thing.
Yeah, I think Slack or the group text, Andrew, is more like it's what I'm hearing from a source as well. There were some reports, the Journal out with this yesterday, but I'm also hearing from a source who was involved in these negotiations that Elon Musk did try to derail this entire AI infrastructure deal that we heard about last week. You had NVIDIA, you had Cisco, SoftBank, and of course OpenAI and Sam Altman, who is Elon Musk's nemesis at this point. You know, they were co-founders of OpenAI way back when. Altman has said that they were friends. The backstory here is that Musk has now sued OpenAI and has gone after him repeatedly on social media. And you flash forward to this Middle East deal, Elon Musk, from what I'm hearing, was trying to intervene and basically get his company involved, his OpenAI competitor, which is XAI. He was saying to the Emiratis, to G42, and to the group involved here, saying, hey, hang on a second. We need to look at more competition, talked about his influence in the White House, and said, really tried to throw out the deal. I also heard one of the details was that they were ready to go with a press release. They were ready to announce this at the 11th hour, had to basically go back, talk to Musk, kind of smooth that out, and then days later, this was actually officially announced. So absolutely at the last minute trying to throw that off. And the context here is the animosity between Sam Altman and Elon Musk. You know, it is a win for Sam Altman and OpenAI, the fact that they were very publicly involved in this, that they won the deal. I'm told Altman also has relationships in UAE going back years at this point, but some interesting behind-the-scenes drama, guys.
Kate, help me, though, with this. To me, it seems completely reasonable for Elon Musk to want to have his company in a transaction like this. That doesn't seem untoward in any way whatsoever. I think the only thing that makes this unique or potentially interesting, actually, is this other piece that you suggested about the either implication, directly or otherwise, that his proximity to the president, closest to the president, would therefore have some kind of other influence in all of this. I remember talking to Sam at the DealBook conference last year and really put that question to him. Did he feel like it could become a problem for him, or that Elon would somehow use his power or influence with the president to somehow upend his situation? And Sam said that he didn't think he would, actually. And the question now is, did he?
It was interesting, Andrew. I thought back to that deal book conversation, too. It was a very diplomatic answer by Sam Altman, saying, you know, of course Elon Musk wouldn't do this. It felt to me almost like a challenge at the time, saying, you know, that would be the un-American thing to do, would be to try to push your own influence in some of these deals. I would also say, if the argument is, hey, Elon Musk is saying there needs to be more competition, there needs to be more actors, it shouldn't just be OpenAI, then you would need Alphabet and Google involved. You should suggest that Meta should be involved. If it's about competition, you would think that there are other AI players out there, Anthropic, for example, that if you wanted to level the playing field, it wouldn't just be XAI. So I think if you're going to go under the guise of, hey, we need more players involved here, it shouldn't just be one American leader. You got to think of the big tech companies, too. But that deal book conversation, we got to go back and pull some highlights.
Interesting, interesting. Kate Rooney, as always, thank you. Good to see you.
Thanks, Andrew.
When we come back in just a moment, we got David Marcus. He's going to join us from Sparklight. We'll talk about crypto, Bitcoin, and what he's seeing in the White House and everywhere else after this.
Comcast Business doesn't just power businesses. We help turn them into logistics mastering, supply chain transforming, seamlessly restocking, frictionless paying, poke bowl ordering, cyber securing, mobile access granting, data managing. Welcome to the worlding modern businesses. Powering the engine of modern business, Comcast Business.
Do you want to know where to invest $1,000 right now? Well, forget about AI, quantum computing, electric vehicles, cryptocurrencies, or robotics. A little-known technology is projected to become roughly 10 times bigger than all of these technologies combined. The World Economic Forum says that it's arguably the most exciting human discovery since fire. And billionaire entrepreneur Vinod Khosla says you can make 1,000 times your money by investing in this phenomenon. But if you want to claim a stake in this revolution, you have to act fast. We're about to cross what Barron's calls an impending tipping point. So do you want to know how to get started with this technology? Go to the website on the screen, and I'll show you how. Hi, my name is Whitney Tilson. I'm a former hedge fund manager. I've been featured in virtually every single major financial publication and TV show. How did I accomplish all this? I'll tell you this. I don't come from money. In fact, my parents were teachers who met in the Peace Corps. The secret to my success is that I have a knack for finding explosive investments in massively disruptive technologies. I bought Amazon in 1999. I bought Apple in 2000. And I bought Netflix in 2012. Investments like that helped me grow my hedge fund from $1 million to $200 million and nearly triple my clients' money. The technology that just landed on my radar might be the most disruptive and lucrative one I've ever seen. One market insider predicted that it could be even more important than the Industrial Revolution. And I want to give you, free of charge, the name and ticker symbol of the company at the center of this disruption. You don't have to give me your email address, your credit card, or anything like that. Just go to the website on the screen, now.
Need money for college, down payment for a house, a nest egg? I started the club for you. The Investing Club is about allowing you to be in control of your own money. We do something nobody else does. We tell you what we're going to do before we do it. We're not traders. We're about creating long-term value. You want to be a better investor? Join the club.
Join the club and save at cnbc.com/joinjim. Terms and restrictions apply.
I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House.
That was Vice President J.D. Vance speaking on stage at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas. Joining us right now is Lightspark's co-founder and CEO, David Marcus. He's previously led payments at Meta. He's also at PayPal and has been going to this conference, I believe, since something like 2013.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so what, it was like five guys in a basement in 2013, and now it's this?
It was, maybe 100 people in San Jose who didn't know what they were doing, but they found Bitcoin interesting.
And how many people were talking about this time?
35,000, I think.
So,
yeah.
When you saw the vice president there, I mean, if I had asked you in 2013, the vice president shows up at something like this, did you ever think that was in the cards?
If you asked me a year ago whether that was going to happen, I would not believe you.
And so where does this go from here? We were just talking to a fellow from Merrill Lynch, talking about sort of, you know, when and if people are, so these major firms are actually able to start pushing this stuff, not just sort of accepting it, if you will. How does that change it? Or do you think that's already built into the price?
No, I think there's so much room to go from here because Bitcoin is becoming mainstream. It's becoming really the true digital gold that we've all been talking about for a while, but now it's actually happening and people care.
But you've always talked about also trying to make it a payment system.
Yes.
Like actually buy stuff with it.
Not necessarily with Bitcoin to unit of accounts, but build a real-time settlement network on top of Bitcoin.
Which is what your company does.
Yes.
So the question is, when does that take off?
Well, it's taking off right now. We're having very large digital banks coming onto the network. We have Nubank that has 100 million customers in Latin America. We have Revolut coming on. We'll make announcements soon about U.S. banks coming on as well, and other large wallets that are coming onto the network. So we're live in 70 countries, and you can move any currency to any currency in real time 24/7 on a weekend with Bitcoin in the middle. So it's happening.
How do you feel about a company like a GameStop putting it on its balance sheet, maybe playing a little bit of a Michael Saylor game? I don't know. And whether you think that's coming to corporate America writ large?
I think it is. The really interesting thing with Bitcoin is the incentives that were baked in 16 plus years ago, and now you see it play in such an incredible way. We had a lot of concentration with strategy, and suddenly you have dozens of other companies that are spinning up. So you're spreading the risk basically into other companies, and even Michael would say that he welcomes other people doing it.
You've given a lot of your support to President Trump. I believe you sort of switched gears.
Yes, I did.
And went that direction. And so my question, though, is I imagine you're very happy about some of the policies as it relates to Bitcoin. But what do you think of his family's involvement and his own personal involvement in Bitcoin? Well, and not just Bitcoin, crypto, meme stocks, the whole thing.
The question would be the same if you're talking about stocks and the stock market. Like, is the president's family allowed to actually trade stocks or deal with the private and public markets? And I think the answer is yes. And I think this is a new category.
You think the answer is yes?
I mean, it's a class. It's a new. Is the family not supposed to be able to buy stocks?
Correct.
Or even bonds?
Yes, they're not. They're not.
Are they allowed to hold dollars?
Well,
that's an asset class too. I mean, it's a decision that you're making to hold dollars. It might not be a great decision.
Historically, presidents have either gone to blind trusts or done other kinds of things in the same way that if you want the head of the SEC, I would imagine you wouldn't want them trading. I would imagine you would not want Congress trading if they knew or had any influence over any of these things, right? But just from a public trust perspective?
But I mean, I think we talked about this last time, but is like Nancy Pelosi supposed to trade stocks?
No, she's not.
I don't know.
I've said it publicly. It's a disgrace.
But individual companies in Congress, I mean, that's rife with conflict. How does the president control Bitcoin? Necessary. I mean,
well, if you have a regulation that says, okay, now the whole world can actually have it,
then that's
a big impact.
That's the same as mortgages then, too. He can influence mortgages. He shouldn't be able... It's such a big...
You wouldn't want him owning Fannie and Freddie if he could influence mortgages, or...
Well, I wouldn't say he can't have a mortgage or can't have a savings account or can't have a bond. These are much bigger... And less...
Like, everyone should have a bank account. I'm not saying you're conflicted by having a bank account.
Your family's supposed to be able to buy stocks, like your family, I would say. So I think it's just the reality is digital assets are becoming mainstream, and alongside other asset classes are being traded by many more people, including probably, and increasingly so, families of elected officials and others.
David, why would a stable coin based on the dollar not supplant the idea that Bitcoin will be used for frictionless transactions?
So people actually get really confused with stablecoins because they think it's both a digital dollar and a payment network, and it's only the former, it's not the latter. And so the way we see the world is we're very asset agnostic at Lightspark. So you can move fiat currency, you can send dollars to someone in Mexico receiving Mexican peso, or you can move stable coins on top of Bitcoin. And we think that that is actually the best combination.
On top of Bitcoin, not on top of the dollar.
I mean, no, the stablecoin is a dollar stablecoin, but like the network is actually, that allows those stablecoins to settle is actually Bitcoin.
I think we should do a...
Just back is sore. Let's go! Ice. Hot. Ice works fast, heat makes it last. Icy hot, just so back.
Down, up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
He sure knows these parts well.
Folks say the planes whisper to him.
Outlaws in 500 feet. Rerouting.
Making it up!
Innovation changes everything.
Man, he's good.
With one investment, you can access the NASDAQ 100 innovators who are rethinking the world. Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/hire.
Decking and railing that's ready for anything you throw at it, even John's 40th. Trex, performance engineered for your life.
$273. This is how much you spend every month on subscriptions.
I only have like 2 or 3, right?
That's what we all think, but in reality, there's so much more that we don't even know we're paying for.
So how do I put more of this cash back in my pocket?
Rocket Money is a financial app that shows you every subscription you're paying for, even that one you forgot about from 5 years ago.
Huh, I can't believe I'm still paying for this. I'll call cancel right now.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. With Rocket Money, they even cancel it for you.
Really?
Yep. All you have to do is tap a few buttons and they take care of it. Download Rocket Money today.
Wow. Make sure you join us tomorrow. It's us again? Just us. Just the two of us. You'll be watching me. I'll be watching you. Squawk on the Street is next.
Good Thursday morning. Welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Carl Quintanilla with Jim Cramer, David Faber at Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Pre-markets rallying as a federal trade court blocks the president's reciprocal tariffs in a unanimous decision. NVIDIA is powering ahead on earnings, but futures are off the highs as Q1 GDP consumption is revised lower from 1.8 down to 1.2. Our roadmap begins with that federal trade court striking down Trump's worldwide reciprocal tariffs and ordering the administration to stop collecting them.
NVIDIA's earnings beat is sparking a global chip rally. CEO Jensen Huang speaking with Jim last night about the fallout from China restrictions and, of course, what's ahead for this AI chip giant. And Elon Musk is leaving his government work at Doge, certainly in terms of it being more of a full-time gig, saying his scheduled time has come to an end.
Let's begin with this federal trade court blocking the sweeping tariffs announced by the president in early April. The 3-judge panel ruling he did not have the authority to impose them under a decades-old emergency economic powers law. The decision voids tariffs on dozens of countries and the fentanyl-related levies on Canada, Mexico, and China. The court is giving the administration 10 days to implement the ruling, and the White House has already filed plans to appeal. Jim Hassett and Navarro on the tape this morning saying, in Navarro's words, not much has changed.
It is amazing to me how, if you read this, you would say, you know what, the judiciary is secondary and subordinate to the executive branch. And by the way, Wall Street's falling into line. I'm reading 7 different reports from Wall Street. All of them say, listen, nothing's changed. Everything's changed. I mean, unless you feel that this is Andrew Jackson and we're back in the unfortunate Cherokee ruling, where he said, well, how many divisions does Justice Marshall have? I mean, I don't want it to be that. Obviously, that's a constitutional crisis. David, if this court means nothing, you know that the judiciary is not subordinate to the executive.
Well, there have been a number of instances, of course, in very different policy areas where the administration has been stopped by the courts, but it's unclear, I think, to a certain extent how much it's obeying or not, and that continues to be a question. Right. A broad question, of course, not one we deal with here in terms of our coverage as often.
You know, Stephen Miller's tweet about how it's a judicial coup.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as though there haven't been any number of questions as to whether you could really say this is an economic emergency, right? Using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to impose these tariffs. And in fact, it wasn't just in this court. There are any number of other cases, I believe, that are pending as well, based similarly on the concern or the opposition to the use of that particular act, saying, what's an emergency now that wasn't an emergency at different times? Now, that said, there are different tools, and in fact, the Trump administration the first time did not use this act, but used different tools to certainly impose significant tariffs on China, for example, and we could go back down that road. As we all know, Section 122 for the immediate imposition of tariffs is up to 15%. That's just 150 days. You can do Section 301 for the imposition of more durable tariffs. That's country by country. We've talked as well about, you know, what is it, 232, the national security thing.
Yeah,
so
just steal.
There are tools available to them, but again, we'll have to watch and see what happens in the courts. This is being appealed, and I would assume it may end up at the Supreme Court.
Right. Well, the reason why everything's changed, what I'm saying is, Peter Navarro said the party line, and I think the party line is nothing's changed, and Wall Street says nothing changed. I'm thinking about the people on the other end. I'm thinking if you're a leader of trade at every country, now you've got this very curious, do I go to the table before they get to the Supreme Court and get a good deal, or do I roll the dice?
Yeah, there's a great piece on the tape quoting a former WTO judge. I don't know why any country would want to engage in negotiations to get out of tariffs that have now been declared illegal.
Right, that's my point. And then you look at one of these, I think if these countries, they should be looking at the makeup of the Supreme Court and trying to figure out which way Gorsuch is going to go.
Right.
Which way Roberts is going to go, because that's what's at stake here. Because if they're going to go toward Trump, you better make a deal right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know when it would get to the court. Obviously,
I think it'd be fast track, but again, now
it would be. But we get back into the conversation around the unitary executive theory, which has obviously been something that this administration has certainly believed in and is testing the courts on, I think, to some extent.
But I do think that when I look at Wall Street research, I say to myself, well, I'm back in constitutional law class in '81, except for I'm smarter than these guys. I knew that I didn't know. These guys all act like they know.
Which guys are these guys?
Suddenly we've got Lawrence Tribe here. I mean, honestly, can I just say that the knowledge of the Supreme Court is limited right here? I'd say to the Supremes. I mean, I'm talking about like baby love.
I know. Listen, I guess the one thing it does introduce once again is just even more uncertainty. And if we haven't said that word enough, we'll just keep saying it, because when you do talk to companies, in terms of their decision-making and their willingness to make long-term plans, they will bring up the uncertainty around tariffs, and this doesn't help. I can't imagine it helps anybody figure out what's coming and what's going to be the new normal.
I agree with you.
All right. Look at that.
I agree with you. Look, I think that when we look at IPOs and we look at transactions, those are the people. Where are all when is Chime coming? When is Goldman going to have a deal? You see, Goldman Sachs was down yesterday. They need deals because we've all said there'll be deals. But why would you do a deal now, not knowing what the tariff's going to be? Look at what happened with ELF last night. ELF's numbers were cut down dramatically because they source a huge amount from China.
Well, we're going to get to Best Buy. We're going to get to HP. A lot of cut guidance today.
HP's conference call was a woe is me conference call. Best Buy at least is putting on a good face. But holy cow, we're starting to see the numbers from the guys who can't mitigate.
Right, and the non-mitigators. The non-mitigators can't move it got to stick with it, and you're
Right.
kind of out of luck
Right.
because the tariff is still quite, I mean, we're still talking 30% from China. Even there, it's sort of, again, you're like, what is the, where are we? We were 145, now we're at 30, but we could go back up. But,
Well, did you read in
but we
the
don't.
NVIDIA
Do we have a
conference
deal
call?
or?
NVIDIA. Well,
Right.
it was 4.5 billion, but we thought it was going to be 5.5 billion. We got that wrong, but 2.5 billion might be able to repurpose. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, 50 billion. It's 50 billion. Billions. I mean, I read the question. Billions of dollars are at stake, because rather than specify exactly how many, but Jensen did specify how much is on the line here.
Yes.
When he spoke to me last night.
By the way, of course, Jim had Jensen on Mad Money. NVIDIA shares are up sharply in the pre-market this morning on the heels of that quarter. Again, Jim, $8 billion in H20s lost to China. We know that.
What was so stark was that you would think that they could, one, offer some sort of Grace Hopper, the lesser, to them, but he said, no, Jen said, no, that's not possible. And two, you can't repurpose most of the stuff. I mean, it's just kind of a dead weight loss. I happen to think that this is the next leg in NVIDIA has to be sovereign AI or China. If they get both and the stock goes to 200. I mean, next week, when I was just looking at Jensen's travel schedule. I mean, the guy is going next week to London, France, Belgium, Germany. I think that all of those places are going to have, you're going to see deal after deal after deal, because if you don't, and you get left behind, it's like not having electricity, not having water.
It's a race. It's a global race, and it's another reason why the guardrails that we've talked about are nowhere in sight. In fact, I think part of the big beautiful bill is a 10-year moratorium on the ability of any state to even stop AI or put in AI restrictions. We are in a race. There is a view that we're in a race with the Chinese, of course.
My God,
that is something
it's an
that
arms
I know
race.
you spoke to Jensen Huang about. His belief is if you don't let us into that market, then the Chinese are just going to come up with it on their own, and then they're going to potentially be in a position to compete and even dominate other markets around the world.
And well, take a listen. Listen to what he said. It's very valuable.
NVIDIA's market share in China was about 95% 4 years ago. It's about 50% today because of the limitations on the products that we sell. But more strategically, more importantly, this is very important. First of all, the China market is, of course, very large, but it's also the home of 50% of the world's AI researchers. The platform that succeeds is the platform with the most developers. Just like iPhone's successful because of lots of developers, Windows successful because of lots of developers, all these platforms succeed because there are a lot of developers. China is home to 50% of the AI researchers in the world. And so we want the world to build on American technology stack. We want every developer in the world to prefer the American technology stacks. Once that happens, the developers develop on American technology stacks. American technology stacks will run AI the best all over the world. And so that's probably the most important strategic reason to be in China, because there are so many developers there, and because the world is going to adopt technology from one country or another, and we prefer it to be the American technology stack.
Jim, how do you think that gets received at the White House?
I was thinking about that, and I said after, I said, you just had the president, the commander-in-chief, getting you very good deals over in the Gulf. Obviously, he was instrumental. Don't you think that he will somehow take umbrage to the fact that he just gave you sovereign that Biden would not let you have? Do you really think that you can come in right now and say what would be right would be that you also give us China? I don't know. That's not part of the deal.
No. All of that being said, NVIDIA was still able to put up a number that was in excess of what many analysts who follow the company have. And in fact, even the guidance, even though it may have come below some, it really didn't include necessarily. Many of them had underestimated just how big the hit would be in China.
You're so right. I mean, you're talking about numbers that he's putting up. They're missing billions and billions, and it doesn't matter. And why is that? Because the sheer number of chips that he is selling, and then the demand is just incredible.
Well, but despite the fact that I think back to China, the latest iteration of DeepSeek's model is using even less compute than the previous one. It just keeps going down in terms of the results they're able to get with
Yeah,
with less
DeepSeek
compute.
this morning.
Yeah.
Now approaching overall performance, now approaching that of OpenAI 03 and Gemini 2.5.
Well, I think that
With
what
less
Jensen,
compute, I believe,
I think what
as well.
Jensen would say is, look, Blackwell Ultra is a real step function higher. Rubin comes out next year, another step function higher. What he's really saying is it's time to, it's about reasoning. Right now, when you go into the various sites, they don't really reason. They're one-off. Now, the DeepSeek is still giving you one-off. He's talking about reasoning. And reasoning cannot be done until you get to the next level of NVIDIA. Meaning that you can ask it something now, and it will regurgitate and not be anything really special. Or it can tell you who was the lineup in the 27 Yanks. But if you go and you say, can the 27 Yankees beat the current version of the Yankees given this? I think that if you got Blackwell Ultra, I think it would have an answer. And if you get next year's Rubin, I think the answer would be so professional that you would think, wow, it's better than anything I could ever come up with as a human.
Meantime, JPM desk this morning, this felt more like an Apple call than an NVIDIA one. The discussion was meticulously scripted, and the Q&A struck us as less expansive than previous calls. Not surprising, given the fresh memory of Retribution on display in Cupertino last week.
Wow, I'll tell you, it was, well, I was actually going it over with a famous actor. I said, look at this. This is the way you have to be. This is how it's orchestrated, but it's still not even good enough. But you did have someone who used to be an analyst from Golden who ran the call.
Right. It is interesting that you have to be very careful about exactly what you're saying. I mean, obviously, there are a lot of things at stake for this company, and they do have to, I would assume, make sure not to cross certain lines. I don't know what actor it is that you're speaking to
I'm not
regularly.
Telling you. To Shia. No, I speak to... What's the matter? I have people outside of the business I talk to.
I'm aware of that.
You talk to everybody. You
Walton
talk to
Goggins, Michael Chiklis.
You know what? I used to be a liberal arts. I was like a humanities guy.
Yeah, I know you were.
I like the opera. I used to go to the opera.
Okay.
All right.
Just happy
I like
that
Wagner,
you're talking.
Just, you know.
You're happy that you're talking to actors who are weighing in on the theatrical level of.
We're going into whether this call is orchestrated as well as, say, a Nike call. It used to be perfect, but Jensen's no longer just logging, throwing bombs in.
Right.
He's now in there, and his final comments are the coda correct. But what's still lacking, I think, is an orchestration of here's what we'd be like with China and here's what we would be like without. That's the crux of last night's call. And I think that what you could do if you stepped away is you could say, are we going to go Cold War? They have their nukes and we have our nukes? Or are we going to own the platform of their nukes? And I think we're going to go Cold War.
Yeah, we're already getting senators not happy about the Shanghai R&D facility.
No, this is
Stories
Cold
about
War.
that on the tape this morning.
I mean, I feel like this is you're one step away from the Berlin airlift right now. I mean, while this call's going on, they're stopping the computer-aided design software companies, although Synopsys had not gotten the note when I checked in with Synopsys last night. But
you mean in terms of the FTC action on Ansys Synopsys, that deal?
No, that's okay. That deal's okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that there was a note about Cadence and Synopsys and what they are stopped, but Synopsys has not gotten the note saying they're stopped. The fluidity with which you're getting, okay, we're not even letting Chinese, we got to revoke Chinese visas.
Well, yeah, the student visas, that's a focus. I think Secretary of State is out talking about that.
I'm about to apply for a visa to go to Europe, and I went to Harvard. It looks like I'm knocked out. I kid you not.
No, they filed this morning, I think. Yeah.
Can I borrow your visa? No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. It's not clear. I went to Harvard, I can't go anywhere. All right, fine. Take that. Tell my wife.
That's a lot of graduates you're talking about conceivably could be affected.
Tribe here, I got everybody.
I mean, you graduated back in the 40s, so.
40s. He says these things. He says these things. It's like, and then he makes fun that I'm talking to actors. I mean, this is starting to really bug me.
Why?
Because I'm trying to bring.
Make the same jokes over and over
I hear
again.
the music, but I'll tell you why.
No new
because
material.
if we don't do this stuff, we are going to be replaced. DeepSeek you, me, Blackwell Ultra. Okay?
That is true.
Rubin.
That is true. We are going to be
We'll see what the viewers have to say about that. Take a look at the pre-market here. We've kind of unwound the rally that we got on the heels of the tariff news. Still hanging on to some gains, though. We'll see what we get at the open in just about 15 minutes.
Only ServiceNow connects every corner of your business, putting AI to work for people.
Every corner?
Every corner, Nick. So Kate in HR, hey Kate, can focus on people, not process. Patty in IT is using AI agents to deal with the small stuff so she can work on the big stuff. AI helps Jim solve customer problems before they're problems.
Oh, so we all work better together.
My work here is done.
Excuse me, which way back?
Discovering innovation today helps drive growth tomorrow. As a leading global asset manager, PGIM has established a track record of helping investors capitalize on growth opportunities. PGIM Investments, shaping tomorrow today.
Why should you trade options rather than stocks? Because they offer higher returns, are cost-effective, and can actually reduce risk. Learn how in our new book. Get a free copy today at itsnotanoption.com. Itsnotanoption.com.
Franklin Templeton Custom Tax Management. Easily create custom SMAs with our Canvas platform and help investors keep more of what they earn. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
Introducing CNBC Plus, a new streaming platform from the #1 source in business news. On-the-go access to international financial markets, business news, and analysis as it happens. Bell-to-bell global live stream, CNBC Plus real-time data, and full episodes of CNBC's Business Day lineup on demand. CNBC Plus. Access any market, anytime, anywhere. Start streaming at cnbc.com/plus.
Peter Piper's pepper picking proved painful. So he ordered all he needed in one place on Amazon Business.
Peter Piper picked peppers, but rhyme.
And positively prospered. Amazon Business, your partner for smart business buying.
You know Harbor Freight for affordability, but durability goes right along with it. You see, we test, and then we test again. Now, it's time for you to put us to the test. Whatever you do, do it for less at Harbor Freight.
Fire it up.
The all-new Dragon Flame Grilled Whopper is here at BK. Bold, juicy, flame grilled, and ready for adventure. Experience a new kind of flame at Burger King. How to Train Your Dragon, coming to theaters June 13th.
It's the Sleep Number Everything Smart Bed Sale. Save on everything cooling, ache relief, and more. Every smart bed and base are on sale during our Memorial Day event, up to 50% off, plus 0% interest for 36 months, only at Sleep Number.
Watching the chips for sure this morning. There's NVIDIA at the top of the NASDAQ 100 gainer list pre-market, along with Marvell, Broadcom, ARM. A lot of price target increases. TD Cowen goes to 175. NVIDIA company is set to become, once again, the most valuable company, surpassing Microsoft. We'll get Kramer's Mad Dash and the opening bell in just a couple of minutes.
Why should you trade options rather than stocks? Because they offer higher returns, are cost-effective, and can actually reduce risk. Learn how in our new book. Get a free copy today at itsnotanoption.com. Itsnotanoption.com.
Franklin Templeton ETFs. With over 70 ETFs, we have solutions for every market, helping advisors build the portfolios of the future today. Franklin Templeton, your trusted partner for what's ahead.
Weight loss. For so long,
I felt stuck. But Zepbound means change. Zepbound is for adults with obesity to help lose weight and keep it off.
it's changing what I believe is possible when it comes to weight loss.
It's changing how much weight I lose, up to 48 pounds. And some lost over 58 pounds.
Don't take if allergic to it, or if you or someone in your family had medullary thyroid cancer or multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2. Tell your doctor if you get a lump or swelling in your neck. Stop Zepbound and call your doctor if you have severe stomach pain or a serious allergic reaction. Severe side effects may include inflamed pancreas or gallbladder problems. Tell your doctor if you experience vision changes, depression, or suicidal thoughts before scheduled procedures with anesthesia. If you're nursing, pregnant, plan to be, or taking birth control pills. Taking Zepbound with a sulfonylurea or insulin may cause low blood sugar. Side effects include nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting, which can cause dehydration and worsen kidney problems.
Zepbound means change.
Ask your doctor about Zepbound.
Pedro's parents planned for adventure, but they didn't plan for him to make a new best friend. You were made to get more than you bargained for. We were made to help you save on packages. Expedia, made to travel.
Every day, I'm checking the markets throughout the trading session, working the phones, talking to sources to share insights, information, and
Morning.
make money.
All right, let's get to a bad day.
Yeah, we got 7 minutes left.
Before we get started with trading on this Thursday, short week. Sometimes kind of forget which day it is. Want to talk a little Starbucks?
Yeah, man, I do want to say just during the commercial, we have so much to talk about. It's so strange. It's just a Thursday in late spring, but I guess mid-spring. All right, so this morning, TD Cowen, which division of TD Securities, downgraded Starbucks by to hold a latte moving pieces. All right, so what it's saying basically is that they're going to miss same-store sales, and the consensus.
Yeah, Enkel's going. Let's go,
I
baby.
will say this about Brian Nickel. Bet against Brian Nickel. What am I going to send you? An invitation to your funeral.
Right.
Brian Nickel is one of the foremost turnaround artists in the world. He turned around Chipotle at the worst, darkest possible moment. He is very confident that the turn is for real. And I think if you want to sell this now, I don't know. Well, you can sell it here and buy it back here.
You put a lot of stock in the power of CEOs to
I sure do.
turn
Bracken
things
Darrell
around.
bought $1 billion worth of
I can
VF
think as well of another turnaround, UNH, and you're very encouraged by the guy they brought back there.
That's a hitter. That stock doesn't go, but see that stock the way it hovers 300. You don't think he has something up his sleeve?
No, I'm just saying it's interesting
This
because
one's coming up basis.
you believe that they can overcome, even if there are, well, there's issues that seemingly are intransigent or
Well,
difficult.
turnaround. Bracken Darrell turned around Logitech. Now he's doing VF Corp. Just bought $1 million worth of stock. Brian Nickel is a guy who's a seasoned turnaround person who started with infrastructure. See, he started with the idea that we've got to get the coffee to you in 4 minutes, and now it's working back. I think it's
What's up, buddy?
Will it all come around perfectly? China's done a little better than people realize. What people should say is, you know what? I can't.
You look green last night?
So good as selling 85. We'll talk about Salesforce soon. Very soon.
Okay.
I short the same time as you, but I got stopped out. It went up to what, 860 last night? I'm like, shit. Woke up this morning, it dumped hard. I was like, hell.
Speaking of an opening about 5 minutes from now, stay with us.
I think you short 758.
Is about allowing you to be in control of your own. You want to be a better investor? Join the club.
Join the club and save at cnbc.com/join-gem.
Oh, you average down. We offer a lot because running a small business takes a lot. That's why we're the Help Protect Your Privacy store and to give your business a real street address store. So while you're juggling everything else like the boss you are, we're the extra pair of hands store. You can count on us as the shredding and mailboxing, anything and everything to keep you going store. Get 25% off shredding. Visit the upsstore.com/shred.
I played different.
Oh, so you met somebody. Nice. Yeah, that's why I hit my DLL. I should have got out. I was only down, I think, 200-300, but I was like, ah, it's gonna go green, and boom, it went way up.
Better sleep, better health, a better planet.
Yeah.
At Avocado,
Oh, well.
we believe you can have it all. Meet the Green Mattress, our best seller, and our
I went short because the bot shorted like
5 hours ago. It's too late to short.
Organic materials and ergonomic coils that support your body's natural curves. Because when you sleep better, you dream better. Shop at avocadomattress.com,
What's up, man?
stores, or retail partners nationwide. Avocado, dream of better.
I want to go long. Yeah, because everything is by the dip.
A trusted global perspective. The economists know which way is up.
This thing is so good for your gut health. I used to have collagen. I used to have probiotic and green juice. I replaced it all with this Arma colostrum. My hair has gotten so much thicker.
Yeah.
Everything's taken in.
Nuveen invests with the foresight and vision to anticipate the needs of future generations, to build strong portfolios that deliver lasting legacies, to innovate and adapt for what's just around the corner. Because after 125 years of yesterdays, Nuveen knows your ultimate stakeholder is tomorrow. Nuveen, invest like the future is watching.
The opening bell is brought to you by Nuveen. Invest like the future is watching.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said, you have to
We
open up the
kinda
country,
got
and
1 minute,
because,
guys.
the European Union a 50% tax tariff. They called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now.
The president yesterday responding to a question.
What about your team of one? Is that on payout or no?
Trade, which has now been written up
Top
by
one.
virtually every major financial news service.
This is just death by 1,000 cuts in the last couple of days.
On what?
Just look at the court. Yeah. You have China going the wrong way. Yeah.
Oh, it's the.
Yes, he's got the law. You've got Harvard actually putting up a fight.
Well, right? They felt like they had no choice. I mean, they're coming after them on all fronts. The administration is in terms of Harvard. Listen, I mean, the president would. I think he's trying to say he always comes.
It's a geo targeting. Nvidia is still good. I'm not pumping at all. This shit drop. Alright, don't tell me it's gonna dump. Nice. That bot so long. I have a long at 27, I think.
It's NASDAQ INC and All Electronic Options Exchange celebrating 25 years.
There we go. Come on.
As for the courts, Jim, we do have one statement from the India Trade Ministry this morning to Reuters saying that they are studying the impact
Dang, that's a drop.
on tariffs. And we'll see. I mean, Hassett this morning on the tape argued that there are 3 deals essentially ready. He thinks we'll be hearing more about them in the coming weeks.
Well, look, I think that I don't know why every country that's in play doesn't make this deal right now, because I really think that the Supreme Court is too much of a wild card. Why would you bank on the Supreme Court necessarily ruling in the favor of the business?
That's another good one. Piper this morning.
Nice.
The CIT, the
Order
International Trade, was having none of it.
Oh shit, my long hit.
A comfortable
Order
majority
submitted.
of the Supreme Court will take the same position.
Oh, my bad, that's long. Shit, all the long hitting now.
Order filled. I think it's just
Order submitted. Order filled.
Right.
Holy
well,
crap, all
again,
my long
not
hit.
As much a focus for us, but the use of the
What the fuck?
Alien Enemies Act to deport people as well is also is being litigated. May well end up. As
Wow, all the gangs from last night's gone. Wow.
What's law from 1798 or something
Right,
like
and
that.
then back to, well, the court has always supported that. Now, David, here's
That
the
is
question.
But it comes
crazy.
back to this idea of there being an
Order
emergency, there
canceled.
being
I
an
should have canceled
invasion.
along.
In that
Damn
case,
it.
emergency in this case.
That is
Do you
bad.
think there's a chance that President Salesforce is down 18
Yeah, I want to. That's gonna get some attention. All right, since you went there, let's just go there because
Give me a break.
Salesforce is down.
Points for it was
I
last
knew-
night.
As he's always looking at the tape, I knew he would see that.
I did not expect this drop.
Downgrade this
Order
morning
I was
by
thinking we'll pump.
RBC. That is-
Maybe we'll go
that
back
is
up.
Fairly outspoken in its criticism. The acquisition of Informatica is a signal Salesforce may be back to its old empire
Wow.
building ways, they say, Jim.
No,
They
it's still
want
the same
to
5%.
again,
It's not
maybe
dumping.
back
I don't
to
know why it's
acquiring
dumping.
versus innovating organically.
Well, I think that Mark Benioff is
Trust the
about
bot.
trying to figure out the value of staying tight versus like
Yeah,
he would
there
tell
we
you,
go.
I think Tim
Come back
Cook
up,
bought a lot
baby.
of stock back. What's that?
Get me out of here. I want to get out my long.
Instead, what he wants to do is become.
I think it did this yesterday too. Dip and rip. So we'll see.
The Genetics, in other words, to take advantage of what Jensen Huang's doing. People hate that. What people want. What do people
Well,
want?
is this a response to this downgrade? Is it a response to the quarter? What is it a response to?
Stuff was okay. There was a little bit of a raise. It looked like a bigger raise because the dollar went from being a headwind to a
We
tailwind.
talked about what, as much as $400 million
It was big,
raise,
it was
right?
big
Yeah.
term. But some of that was not. Some of it was real. But I think what this is about is a belief that Mark's run out of room. He
Order
started talking on
submitted.
the show last night about
Yeah, there
small,
we go.
medium-sized business doing well. That means, oh, no more big logos.
Get me out of here.
Talked about a PepsiCo trade, but he had business with PepsiCo before. I think people are saying he's tapped out.
625, 626, 630. I have a lot. I don't know why I didn't cancel them. Yeah.
Would disagree as well. Here's some of what he had to tell Jim last
Too
night.
many
on that.
accounts. I think it's gonna go up.
It's about Agent
Hopefully.
Force, it's about our data cloud, but if our
Oh.
customers don't have their data together, it makes
That's
it a
my
little bit
average.
more of a
I have like
challenge for them.
4
So
different accounts.
You have to have the data. It's not like consumer AI. Consumer AI, you've already got all the data put together. For enterprise AI, they have to put their own data together, and that means
Come
they have to
on, there's
understand
no
their
bad
data
news.
lineage.
Just pump it up.
They have to have a master data management. They have to be able to have all the connectivity and the homogenization of their data, and ultimately
Just
their
trying.
data has to
Come
be
on, baby.
in harmony. And that's what Informatica does with Salesforce.
Informatica is a company that really hasn't done much selling. They have this they
Yeah,
have
that's a
superior
huge
product.
down.
They have a Salesforce. You merge that with the Salesforce of Marks, they'll be able to do better. I think that this decline of 17 points is so exaggerated versus what Mark's got going with the genetics. And by the way, just so you know, what other companies are really taking advantage of the possibility of a salesperson that is not a real salesperson doing the job? Only Mark.
I mean, not a real person, but
Yeah. And I think that's a terrific thing. If I were a company and he came in and said,
Yeah,
"Look,
your show was nice.
you don't need all these people answering the PepsiCo.
Sam Vita's still going up.
in the middle of the night.
6%
We can
now.
automate this whole thing, and you have a Gentic, and then it puts through the call, which then sends the Frito-Lay truck to your place. It's a brilliant strategy. But Wall Street has decided that Mark Benioff,
Come on,
once
ain't you?
again, should be counted out. Just like he was in 2008 when he came on my show and the stock was at $8, and everyone said it's going to get cut in half. It did not get cut in half.
Well,
people want that discipline that was instituted by a bunch of hedge funds. Well, that's no-go discipline.
it did get operating margins up a lot.
It did, but the margins are up so high now,
Still dropping.
and he's not selling them. I mean, look, you can get the margins up huge if you don't do anything.
Right.
But he's saying, "I'm gonna go out, unshackle me.
I got it.
I got it." It's great. It's actually
Yeah,
great
3 minutes
business
don't look
question.
good.
Which do you do? Do you go
Order
buy back
filled.
stock
Oh,
long
shit,
term
what
because
hit?
you don't have any good
Oh, my
ideas? Or do you
TTT.
try
Create new
Order
avenues.
canceled.
like Mark would say, Apple never bought anybody, and that was a really good idea for a long time, and then they didn't buy Netflix.
Order submitted.
Well, the AI trade's getting reflected in C3 AI, Jim. Well, back above the 200-day for the first time since late February.
That wasn't meme stock, and it's got numbers. Anything, look, I felt anything AI would include Salesforce, but that was remarkable because this stock, Siebel had not been delivering, and then suddenly everyone's decided he is delivering, and so they're back to level it again. There are certain trades that we should talk about. The nuclear trade, let's call it the car
That's a lot of
trade.
movement, though.
Okay.
The Palantir trade.
Palantir trade.
the quantum trade. These are ones today, someone broke orthodoxy and downgraded GEV, Jeffries. GEV is the best stock I think that my trust has owned in years. Straight up. You got a solid downgrade. It finally goes down, but it's been a parabolic move. Yeah. And that's because this is about natural gas turbines, which, by the way, they got huge deals when the president went over to the Gulf.
Well, we talk about it all the time. It is the gaming issue for the growth of AI. It's power, the ability to generate enough power for all these data centers that are being built at a frantic pace right now, all of which will include chips that are made by NVIDIA. And by the way, a lot of other stuff in there.
I want to long another account, but I'm scared.
Broadcom benefits from, well, we never talk about Purdue, it's $1 trillion company. I mean, there's so many different things.
Well, it's 1% of the GDP,
AI trade.
1% of the GDP is data center built.
Well, you just think about what's going on right now in Abilene with Stargate, in
my blog is getting
in Louisiana with Meta. Oh my God. Memphis, or outside Memphis with XAI. I think the numbers are staggering.
What about the Pittsburgh Belt? You ever hear about that? The Pittsburgh data center belt?
No.
It's just incredible number of data centers put up around Pittsburgh.
Now, you're typically going to look for areas where you can get the cheapest energy. It used to be that they cared a lot about it being renewable. That doesn't seem to figure in as probably.
Well, that was a nice idea.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Vegas. When you're looking for drier
Yeah, a lot
areas,
of Asian sessions gone
there's a
now.
lot of people in Pittsburgh
Wow.
areas, Carnegie Mellon. But that's not necessarily daytime.
I wish I kept my short from last night.
Which is also good, Greg. Tempers everywhere.
We did have our friend Adam Parker yesterday, Jim.
He was great.
Asked whether Palantir could be the best short at the moment.
Wasn't that amazing?
He argued there's a pending rebalance at the end of June.
Come on, baby.
Which could cause some substantial rotations out of the stock. Meantime, 73 times EV to forecasted sales.
It's 200x, and no one, there's only been 5 companies. It was a really great interview. But it's one of my friends who was going to short it said, "What's this Palantir? I'm shorting it." I said, "Well, you got to start by learning how to pronounce it." He goes, "Why? If this is so overvalued, why do I have to pronounce it right? This guy has billions."
It's the old NVIDIA. They also, by the way, did have that partnership with Fannie Mae to
target.
root out some mortgage fraud.
5:15
You gotta give
and
him credit. He does roll out a new deal pretty much every third day.
He's got a lot of them.
He has a lot of deals.
He's got a
But
lot.
not enough in Europe. That's what the knock is. What?
You want to talk about HPQ this morning at all, which is getting hit pretty badly?
You obviously want to talk
No,
about
I don't really have much to say. I was sort of coming to you. See a lot of different price target adjustments.
Okay, yeah, I
based
based
on-
I was trying to avoid it because Enrique,
based
because
on
Enrique Lores is such a nice person, but this was a horrendous call. I mean, it was horrendous.
There we
Now,
go.
what's that 5? The reason why it's horrendous is not all his fault. I mean, printing is bad, but the tariffs. He's ground zero for tariffs because it's very hard for him to mitigate. He's trying to mitigate. And I don't know how to say that he's a lot.
Bear's killing it now.
That's why. These are the 2
Yeah.
companies last night that they had to throw up their hands.
Give it time. The 15 minutes, almost at the bottom.
Cost of goods, China based. They cut
Let's
the
see.
guide.
3 minutes looks like it's going to drop. 15 looks bad, but I might bounce later. Just going to hold on to it.
I think Coles is something.
My sizing's
A lot of people thought
good.
that Coles was a corner. I am not a big Coles believer, but they beat the number. Coles beat the number, David. New CEO,
Yeah.
right? Michael Bender is the interim CEO.
It's $1 billion market cap.
Billions.
Going up 14%.
Well, this is a lot of people were worried this was going to be a death trap. Maybe it's new life.
Walmart just sold $1 billion worth of goods in the time I was talking. It's the market cap of Kohl's they just sold.
I think Walmart's talking today.
Amazon just sold $1 billion worth of goods in the time I was just talking.
Okay, there are
The market
thousands.
cap of Kohl's. Can we stop talking about Kohl's?
There are 1,000 stores. People market those stores, okay? I'm talking about layoffs. I'm talking about people's jobs. What are you talking about?
Talking about Amazon
Damn,
and
it's still
Walmart,
dropping.
the dominant players in American retail.
1,000 stores.
The profits you make on the sale are still the same.
Order fill.
Order fill.
Order cancel.
They come in Coles cap.
By the way, all-time high, Build-A-Bear?
There you go. That was Danny Murphy.
They gotta go to build it.
I'm sorry. I mean, people making money on this one
Order
today, Jim.
submitted.
Look, that was Danny Marr said they have the most pristine brand in that business. I don't know. He also said Shake Shack was good at that.
Up 26%. All right, I'm gonna go to.
If you what you tell me what your deal guy said, because everyone
Which deal?
everyone said
I don't want to average down anymore.
Order submitted. Order canceled.
I don't have any insight for you.
Order submitted.
Well, can you make up something?
No, I'm not gonna make it.
Just hang it. You can be the Jim Crow. You can be Jim Crow. You can be Jim Crow.
Well, that's how he thinks. What can you make up about it?
I don't want you to do that. I'm just saying that I thought I teed up something.
I got nothing on that. I just
You
didn't.
got-
It
no,
didn't rise to the level that I cared.
Read all the notes on deck.
Order filled.
Foot Locker, the stock would be up really, really big. That's what they said. And I think that he paid a
607
huge
is
amount.
this
He paid
average.
Order canceled.
double where it was.
It did pay a large premium on
For
the
Foot Locker.
yeah, well below the all-time highs, but certainly a large premium.
When did I'm sorry.
AOL.
Sorry. Then you went into Amazon.
Yeah.
And that
Me, I'm at
so that
5 now.
cases.
Well, they're going to be right there.
Yeah.
Control a lot of the market.
Well, it's the TTT because I have like a big buffer on it.
You had it all.
You know,
Brock, there we go. I want to talk a little big oil, guys, because in stories that we've been following for a long period of time, one of them, of course, is the contentious battle between Exxon and Chevron. Remember Chevron announced their deal to buy Hess 100 years ago?
it was.
I
Never
kid.
buying stock,
But it was a long time ago, and of course, it has been held up as a result of Exxon taking them to arbitration over a right of first refusal. They claim they had
Freelon got some
in terms of
QQQ
Hess's
calls.
30% ownership in their partnership with Exxon and China CNOOC in Guyana, which has proved to be, of course, an incredibly fruitful area of the world for production of oil. They could be getting up to as much as, 1.3
Give me
million
a pump.
barrels a day at some point. They finally went to arbitration. It happened. It was in a court, the ICC in London. That's what the contract was based on in terms of if there was a dispute.
There you
But
go.
we still may not know for some time. In fact, Neil Chapman, he's the senior
Order
vice president
filled.
at Exxon, presented at the Bernstein Strategic
Order
Decisions
filled.
Conference. And
Order
he was
submitted.
quoted as saying the following: hearings taking place. I don't know exactly when they'll come to a decision. All I can tell you is typical timeline, 2 to 3 months. We're confident the judges will go in their favor. Of course, if you talk to Chevron and Hess,
Oh, nice.
they're confident the judges will not go in Exxon's favor. And hanging in the balance is Chevron's ability to buy Hess. Because if the judges were to actually rule in Exxon's favor and say it does have that right of first refusal, well, Chevron ain't going to be able to buy Hess.
Order canceled.
Right?
They
But
needed
it's going to be 2 or 3 more months, guys. But just wanted to focus back on that. The arbitration has taken place. It's really literally around kind of one key sentence in a contract. One day that'll all be written by Grok and OpenAI, but I guess this one was written by actual lawyers.
Well, I would say that Chevron stock has been woeful. They could actually hit a 5.
Okay, we go back to 490. I'm gonna average down one more. And we just lost everything last night.
There was a period of time
Order
where its market
submitted.
cap approached, if not exceeded, that of ExxonMobil. I know that is long ago at this point, with Exxon's value almost, not quite,
Order
2 times.
Okay.
2013 was the largest company.
Yeah.
They just put it through as well. Lydia, just 1 second.
Yeah.
The Shanghai is simply a leasing new space for existing employees who need the room in the post-COVID return to work. Scope of work will remain unchanged. I just don't
All
want
right, you're talking now about NVIDIA again. You're coming
Well,
back
that's
to the
correct.
idea of what they're doing in Shanghai.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that people understand that there's nothing new. And the reason I'm just doing this thing is because I think the White House perhaps could go against NVIDIA. And it's said right now we have a story on the tape. It's the Senator's bash NVIDIA's plans about a China facility as a security risk. I just want to.
And so you're saying the China facility is what?
Nice.
Say that again?
It's a place to put people with COVID.
It's a place to put people who
no,
have COVID?
Well, yes.
I hope so.
Yes.
So there's a misunderstanding here.
That's what I'm saying. There are a lot of people.
I don't see it though. 3 minutes like it's gonna drop still.
It's
a place to put people who have
Yeah, it's a new space for existing employees who need the room in the post-COVID return.
Yeah, the 50-minute oscillator is flatlining soon, so it might curl up.
People talking right
I just gotta hold.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
You do that sometimes. You do know that.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I do that. because I'm not a linear thinker.
No, well, I think our viewers will.
What a rug pull, man. That's so stupid. Holy shit.
Yeah, dude, the Perplexity doesn't have an ounce of non-linearity. It prides itself on being
Very linear, very linear. Which one is bipolar?
No, I don't hear anything.
Got to.
It's
That's
just
another story that
crazy drop.
we'll be keeping a close eye on is Fannie and Freddie. It came up yesterday. I just wanted to clarify very quickly a couple of things around that as we continue to watch whether
Order
they make
submitted.
progress in taking these two very important mortgage insurers. They control the mortgage market in this country in many ways out of the conservatorship and the Third Amendment, if you recall, under which they were paying all their dividends to the government. They have
Order
not been
filled.
paying dividends to the government now for a number of years. In fact, the money being paid has been kept by Fannie and Freddie to build up their own capital. And I did want to make that clear because I know I talked about this yesterday. They have paid as much as $300+ billion combined to the U.S. government, which is far in excess of what the U.S. spent to bail them out. But that said, recently, both Fannie, which I think has over $60 billion now in capital, and Freddie at over $40 billion, have been keeping their own profits essentially for their eventual return to being public companies. We don't know when. We don't know what happens to the senior preferred that the government holds on its balance sheet and how that will be dealt with or whether it will be converted to common.
Oh
We don't
shit,
know
something hit.
what
Oh
kind of
man.
capital raise they will need to do in terms of a
Nasty.
follow-on offering in the public markets. A lot we don't know, guys, but want to keep a close eye on Fannie and Freddie. That's the common. There's still risk in that. It's important to point out versus the senior preferreds, which is really the key fulcrum security here. So.
How about that New York Times deal with Amazon?
How about that New York Times deal with Amazon?
When they're using content, and it does say that
At least
Alexa
my lucid eval was good. Just gonna try to pass it today.
Who's done Siri or Alexa? Go ask them. You start giving Alexa some New York Times, might be worth looking at instead of the joke of the day. Alexa, tell me the joke of the day. What's the animal of the day? I mean, it's like, stop insulting me. Alexa's really that.
Yeah, timeshares are up about 1.7%
On that deal.
Matt.
Yeah, I think that Alexa could get smarter. Well, anybody can get smarter.
I'm assuming she won't get dumber.
No, it's hard to get done without Alexa. I mean, she's challenged.
Meantime, Dow's up 66 points. Watch bonds today. It's on the Fed speak all day long. Claims.
It's gonna lose 500. Yep.
We'll get a 7-year note auction at 1 o'clock, and the Nasdaq's
Wow.
green here today once again. Stay with us.
Yeah, I'm still holding that one.
Order canceled. Order filled.
Order filled.
Order submitted.
It's not. It's. Man, I'm down a lot. No, Michael.
It's brought to you by PIMCO, a global leader in active fixed income.
I didn't expect this. Yeah, I didn't expect this at all. It was crazy.
Correlation between predictability.
We hit low a day now.
Those who manage risk by anticipating each movement, flawless execution, timing, and accuracy.
Order filled.
Order filled. Identify the goal, match power with precision, reach new heights. CME Group, where risk meets opportunity.
Is a Bitcoin ETF the same as owning Bitcoin directly? While Bitcoin ETFs might offer a familiar face, they lack the true ownership and flexibility of directly investing in Bitcoin. With iTrust Capital,
There we go.
you can buy and sell real Bitcoin 24/7 with the tax
I need
advantage.
630.
Real Bitcoin means no middleman, no restricted stock market.
Man.
offers. Choose the path of direct Bitcoin investment with iTrust Capital. Because
At least I made 1,000 on Lucid playing NQ.
invest in Bitcoin at iTrustCapital.com today.
My oldest daughter, Camilla, she came out fighting. 2 days old, she had to have open heart surgery. All of a sudden, she's on, 5
Long way
different
to go.
medications. Me and the pharmacist got so tight. She said, "Good RX, you save you a lot of money. Saving that extra $200-300 a month, and then you do the math. The money we're able to save with using Good RX, we're able to do all these extra activities.
What should I
and
get to?
probably
I
do
need
a little
602.
anything. So it puts less stress on our household, and it puts
Order
less stress on our
submitted.
pockets.
Come on, baby. Give it to me.
Bounces, sure, they bring you stuff, but it's doubtful they'd invite you to a parent group.
Good thing I have a huge buff on this one. I would have died.
Rita, who sold you a stroller.
That's why I don't like those DLL stuff. Those get hit all the time.
Stock before reading this book, because when you see the returns you can be making on options versus stocks, you'll realize that in today's market, buying and holding stocks alone It's not an option. The simple, beginner-friendly option strategies you'll
Give me
learn
100 more
in our new
points.
book could take your investing returns to a whole new level. And today, we'll give you a copy for free. Get your free copy while they last at itsnotanoption.com. Itsnotanoption.com.
You long, nice. Oh, we got news in 8 minutes? Fuck. Don't fuck me. 8 minutes, yeah? Not for me, I need 100 points.
This week on CNBC and streaming on CNBC Plus.
Bunch of news in the airlines this morning. United and JetBlue sign a partnership expanding United's presence at
Nvidia
JFK.
is still the
Scott
same
Kirby on
5%.
Squawk this
I don't know
morning.
why it was so
Boeing, by
red.
the way, turning the corner, heading in a better direction. Also, a second upgrade this week of love. Deutsche goes to buy after Jeffries upgraded on Tuesday. Dow's up 106 points. Stay with us.
This is down.
Oh, that's
Sarah Benzino.
15 and 30, yes.
She called her first.
Oh, you mean Jablonski Autobody LLC.
We actually sold the twins' name.
You know, like
Good shit, dude.
kids are so expensive these days.
Oasis Freeze 10
Let me see that 15-minute oscillator. Yeah, it still looks like it's gonna drop still. It's near the bottom, so I'm hoping it pump later on. I got no choice anyway. I fucked up. This is my Bonox that's near payout too. Yeah, I clicked the wrong one. I'm down 800 and I just needed 200 for payout.
Know which ways up.
Yeah.
Started walking down these goggle glasses. I had no idea what I was doing. Like
800?
Using AI to build a logo, website, and social content. So I can let the world know. The goggles ain't goggles. They don't belong to goggles.
Yeah.
My husband, Dean, always worried that his diabetes would keep him from enjoying retirement.
I gotta play
But
NQ
Dexcom G7
next
has
week
made
if I'm
it
down
easy
like
for Dean to
1,000.
manage
Because I was
his
down
levels.
300 last night. So 300 last night and 800 now. It's like over 1,000.
Investing Club is about allowing you to be in control of your own life. You want to be a better investor? Join the club.
Join the club and save at
It's fine.
cnbc.com/join gem. Terms and restrictions apply.
It's our 249th.
Order canceled.
So let's party. But shouldn't we wait another year for the big 250? Like George and the boys should have waited another year for the disco on the Delaware? Come on. We the people don't wait to keep it juicy. Never have.
Order
Heck,
submitted.
we partied in Boston with just tea. Point is, Juicy don't wait for round numbers. So happy big 249, America, from Johnsonville. Let's keep it juicy.
So it's the boogie woogie jam.
Trying.
I guess I'm not the easiest person to please. I like things
What's
just
that?
right.
607
That's why I love
this
Redfin.
one.
They show me homes that are perfect for me. Not too big, not too small.
Yeah.
It's like they know me.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears love having me here. Aww. We're like family.
I need 602, 607, 607, 630, and 625. Those are my counts I went long. Yeah, I went a
I
lot
know
long.
baby girl miss me.
Jim, stop trading.
People have been wondering why Dollar Tree and Dollar General have been levitating. UPS has a really good piece today. So look, some Party City clothes, Walgreens
I
coming
hope so
down.
too.
Some of the Family Dollars.
Man, I did that yesterday.
went
Dip
down,
and
big
rip, so
loss.
I'm just hoping to
It's
do the same.
Family Dollars going
I didn't think it's gonna dip
So
this much though.
makes
It's
it- they
crazy.
keep going down because the competition's going down. And I think that that's very important. And I think these stocks are right for the moment.
Yeah, we're beginning to see some serious delinquencies at the low end on credit cards. We're going to keep our eye on.
And that's
on
really
the-
good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
a really nice Dollar General. They have
it got
everything there.
quick
that
too.
everyone-
We were just chatting during the break about Elf and this investment in Haley Bieber's brand.
They bought Rode,
Yeah.
and the stock is up 24 on that. I can't wait to speak to Frank. This has been the grip for the
Can't
shorts,
stay up.
Most of the sources from China. The shorts got a rude awakening today. Look, everyone
everyone knows Bieber. She's built this brand in 3 years using TikTok. Really quite exciting. And then the other, I've got Richard Dixon. The turnaround at Gap is remarkable, and the analysts all are starting to realize it. Although they still think it's GPS, it's GAP, and I like that stock very much. But they have a parabolic move, so you don't know what they can get in. Because we see parabolic moves like Gigi Verona, and someone's out there to shoot it down. What a show! She's
Too scared to short this low now.
24 hours. David, do you have something to be able to? What do you need? What do you need? I'm here for you. All right, but we gotta go. We gotta go. You're done.
We'll see you tonight. Jim Mad Money.
I have another long at 488 for the weekly. Oh, I have a limit order, so if it hits, it hits. Oh, shit, there's 2 minutes left. Yeah.
Zillow, Spencer Raskoff helped change how people buy homes and created
There you go, get out.
but his only regret is not letting everyday investors in sooner. Now,
Needed news to pump.
$3 trillion opportunity with Picasso. Backed by leading VCs, we're building the future of second home ownership with over $100 million in adjusted gross profits. Now you can join top investors for just $2.80 per share before our share price changes. Learn more at Picasso.com/invest.
It's dropping,
I'm
yeah.
Allison Lundberg, strategist at AmericanEagle.com. Wagner came to us with a goal to make their website user experience seamless and simplify access to product information for customers. We build enterprise websites like this all the time. Through a fully integrated digital transformation, WagnerSprayTech.com is now a fast, mobile-optimized website with an engaging user experience. For complete website and digital solutions, go to AmericanEagle.com.
Introducing AG1 Next Gen. The daily health drink backed by 4
There we go.
rigorously
Come on, baby.
designed clinical trials. Next Gen is clinically shown to increase healthy gut bacteria by over 10 times and to close common nutrient gaps. It's one drink for whole body health. The next generation of AG1 is here.
Sunshine and maybe rain, but as for me,
Up, right, left, inside, out. Sometimes it's hard to make sense from nonsense. Go beyond the headlines.
That's
a
bad.
trusted global perspective.
Bad news is gonna pump, right?
No which way is up.
In 5 to 10 years, there'll be at least 10 million
not
humanoid
dumping
robots. It's
or
not just going
anything
to be
from
in little
that.
factories and things like that. They'll be amongst us. They'll be in nursing homes. They'll be helping people.
If we continue to see relatively low unemployment, then I feel reasonably good about the consumer.
We're living through noisy times. You have to have good data sources.
It's coming down.
No desire to see this come to a conclusion until he really dismantles it.
Nope. Yeah, let's go back up. Come on. Fuck the data. Just go up.
Thursday morning, welcome to Squawk on the Street. I'm Sarah Eisen with Carl Quintanilla and David Faber live as always from Post 9 of the New York Stock Exchange. Stocks are still in a celebratory mood after that court ruling struck down the
Later, buddy.
reciprocal tariffs by President Trump. Not quite as high though as it looked, say, in the overnight futures. The S&P right now up 0.6%. The Dow's up about 79 points.
damn.
Nasdaq 63, about 0.8%. You do have tech outperformance. Take a look at treasuries right now as well. Remember, you had firmer yields yesterday. We have some mixed data today, which we'll digest in a moment, but there's buying. We saw that overnight. That continued through the session with lower yields, which is perhaps
Yeah.
comforting equities as well.
But 6:30 is a long way.
10-year. Do have another auction this afternoon, 7-year. Coming up,
Order canceled.
Morgan Professor Jeremy Siegel, his take on the tariff ruling, what it means for the market, for growth. Plus, how
Oh,
tomorrow's
yeah.
key inflation report
When it
could shape
dropped
the Fed
earlier,
strategy.
forgot to
And happening this
cancel.
hour, Boeing CEO updating his turnaround strategy at a conference. We'll bring
Yeah,
you
that's
all
my
the
bow
headlines
nuts too. I
as
might
soon as
have to
they
average
happen.
down.
Stock's up a little more than 1%.
Yeah, 4 on
Little
there.
housing data on deck with pending
see.
homes. Let's get to Diana Olick this morning. Hey, Diana.
Hey, Carl, yes, pending home sales fell a much wider than expected, 6.3% in April from March. The street was looking
Orders
for flat
submitted.
sales, down 2.5% from April of last year.
Yeah.
I don't know why the street was looking for flat, because this isn't surprising when you consider that this count is based on signed
it's-
contracts on existing
home
homes during
sales
the
are
month.
bad.
That is, people out shopping when the stock market was on a roller coaster because of the tariff announcements, which all caused the average rate on the 30-year fixed to jump to well over 7%
trying.
from a low of 6.6% at the start of the month. Now, regionally, sales fell across the nation, but hardest in the South and West. The South saw prices overheat the most since the start of the pandemic, and the West was always the priciest region. The South is now seeing prices come down in some spots, but even sales in the Midwest were also down a lot, despite it being a more affordable region. That's likely because there's less supply there due to recent higher demand. Now, inventory levels nationwide are hitting a 5-year high, but mortgage rates are still not coming down. We're right around 7%. Prices, as I said, are easing in some regions, and that may prompt some potential buyers to wait longer to see if prices come down even more. Back to you guys.
And Diana, you've been talking a lot about the dynamic between existing homes and new home sales, with more strength in the new home sales space, right? Why is that?
Yeah, we actually saw new home sales in April, which are also based on signed contracts, jump 11% month to month. But that's because builders ended March with a 9-month supply of homes for sale. That is a lot. So they were doing everything they could to unload these homes. That is mortgage rate buy downs, incentives, price cuts, throwing everything they could. The builders have a lot
Looks like
more
it's gonna
levers to
drop.
pull than the existing market does. That's why you saw those builders get so many more sales in April.
Yeah, big gap there. Okay, thank you, Diana. Diana Olick, other big economic report of the day for the macro setup is the GDP report. So this was the second look at first quarter GDP. And remember, this was a negative number. It was the first time we saw that kind of contraction since 2022. So good news, bad news. Overall,
Orders
negative
submitted.
0.2 looks better than negative 0.3. And that was the headline we got today. It doesn't really matter because this one was heavily distorted by front loading of the Trump tariffs. The important point to pull out of this that I think will get the most attention today is that there was a downward revision in consumer spending. This economy is a consumer-driven economy. That's the growth engine. Look at the consumer spending portion there. So the first look was higher than the second look. The sort of darker blue, that's what we got today. And it was a
going
revision
down,
down. And that's what I just wanted to highlight. It was 1.2% consumer spending in the first quarter, whereas we initially thought it was 1.8%. And that's sort of the
Order
cleanest
filled.
read
Shit.
of
New
demand
low.
going into the second quarter, which, David, we expect growth to rebound in the second quarter. I think Atlanta Fed is tracking 2.2% right now, but just notable as we're trying to track the ins and outs of the consumer and just how much sort of weakness and slowness there is given the higher levels of uncertainty and some of the confidence surveys showing the consumer's been shaken.
Right. It's a higher level of uncertainty, but we've made the point a number of times.
Orders
that tariffs,
submitted.
to the extent they hit, have
Orders
not yet
canceled.
really hit in terms of
Orders
prices.
No,
submitted.
they really haven't. We don't
Order
expect that
filled.
to have any
Order
kind of
filled.
spark, a big
Order
spark
filled.
tomorrow in the PCE data in April. Could come in the next few
597
weeks.
now to
As far
get
as
out.
other data, Carl, you've been hitting continuing claims a lot. I know that's an elevated number. I mean, that continues to show
It's too
higher
big now.
numbers,
It's
which
down
I think
like
speaks to the fact that it's harder and harder to go out and get a job if you're on
1,400 to 1,600 total now.
saw 14,000 additional Americans filing for unemployment claims last
Another
week to
1,000 something,
240. So
1,500.
if you smooth out the 4-week moving average, because it's a volatile number, it's
I'm
pretty,
at
it's
5
okay.
now.
I mean, it's fine. Little changed, I would say, on the 4-week
Yes,
moving average.
yes.
So no source of alarm there in
Yeah, I
terms of
can't add
companies
anymore.
all of a sudden doing mass layoffs or even
That dump
layoffs in
hurt.
any big number.
What the
There
fuck?
have been some anecdotal. McKinsey this week, 10%. Chevron with some layoffs today. What's more interesting is the share of total jobless claims in Maryland and Virginia is up like 2 points since the beginning of the year. Not a surprise. You think about Doge effects, but that's gotten highlighted a bit today.
Yeah, it's
1,
still
2,
a
3,
small
4,
percentage
5,
of the overall
6 accounts.
absolutely, that's not a surprise to see.
And
Given
couple,
anecdotally,
most of them are funded. Actually,
living in
yeah,
Washington,
5
D.C., they
funded.
know someone who's been affected by the federal job cuts.
Mm.
They see it in the restaurants. They see it there. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
the good news
well,
on
the
that front for
Lucid
them
is
that
eval.
Musk
My
is gonna
direct,
be leaving
my
now.
straight to fund it hit
Efforts, so to
DLL
speak,
last
continue.
night.
It's unclear exactly what they will
Yeah,
accomplish, but
bad day.
they continue without him.
Right.
Yeah.
Or he and his sledgehammer.
And as he said
And
to me, I
then
mean, he'll still
here,
be in DC a couple
my
times a month,
feature
whatever,
meats
but
just hit
Right,
DLL, so
Dover's
that's
not dead.
done.
Overall, though, I think the big question today.
And you need 1 day for payout.
This court ruling, if it does hold up, pause in the reciprocal tariffs will mean for the
Crazy.
outlook, which is ever changing on GDP,
Order
on
filled.
inflation, on the market.
Order
I mean,
submitted.
here's a good look at what's still in place. So these are ones that are not affected by the court ruling, and there's the size of
And
them
it's still
too.
dropping.
The 301
That's not
China
good.
products that Trump did in the first term. That's a hefty 23
And Q's
billion of
going
Chinese
red.
imports still coming in with the high tariffs.
Nvidia's
Steel,
dropping too.
aluminum, autos, they were all done under different legal mechanisms, so they do not go away. What does under this ruling, if it holds, if it's not appealed,
Well, it's going to be, it has already been appealed.
right,
The
but we
question,
don't
of
know.
course, is how quickly it works its
prevail.
way through the courts, where it ends up, if it ends up at the Supreme Court, and whether the administration in any way feels as though their efforts have been sidetracked, or to your point, whether they will use some of
Order
the other
filled.
tools available to them
Order submitted.
to continue down this road in terms of tariffs.
I
But
think, yeah.
to your point, the one we were talking about earlier, Sarah, it just creates more uncertainty
Sure.
because it's just yet another thing where, well, okay, where do we stand?
Right, and how do the tariff revenues now affect the one big beautiful bill? They wanted to offset that with some tariff revenues. How does it affect the economy and inflation?
Order
I do
canceled.
think one positive note from some of the research this morning is that the 145%
Order filled.
tariffs that are set to be reinstated after the 90-day pause look less likely now.
Order
Because that was under
submitted.
this one. And also, the European 50% tariffs that were supposed to be reinstated July 9th, if they don't make progress, also look less likely if this law stands.
Right. We'll see. Yeah, markets well on watch, as you said, to see what it does to the pace of ongoing trade talks all around the world. Let's get more on that tariff ruling.
Order
and what options
submitted.
do remain on the table for the White House. Our Megan Casella joins us this morning.
Hey, guys,
Yeah, I'm
good
gonna
morning.
leave it
Today,
here
pretty
and
significant
start
move in
packing.
The administration's trade agenda, the biggest one
luck, guys.
that we've seen so far, but it's certainly not the end of the road for the tariffs, and it doesn't leave the administration without options.
Order
There really
filled.
three main things to watch from
Order
here. The
filled.
first is that the
Order
administration
filled.
can, and in fact already has